The boy is doing something and realizes he needs to turn the other way. He knew it if he did it this way, and then he writes it down. He thinks about this world without TVs and smartphones, but magic is really cool and fun. The main character joyfully raises his hands up. This place is his ideal world. The main character is a real magician. His father once told him he came from a long line of magicians, and when he was little, he truly believed it. In the middle of the show, a man with a knife stabbed the magician, and he was fine. He didn't know it was a trick. He didn't have a good father example, and he became needlessly dependent on magic. He knew magic didn't exist, but deep down he still wished it did when he was 17. He asked the girl why she was leaving. He needed help so that the black magic lab wouldn't be closed. She told him straight out that she didn't want to hang out with such a weird group like them. The girl asks him if all mentors are like this, since he doesn't need to walk her home, or if he has fallen in love with her. She turns around and walks away, and the guy notices that a car is driving straight towards her. He runs and pushes the girl forward, thereby saving her. But he himself ends up in trouble. The guy hears someone's voice and realizes that it is not Japanese or a Japanese person. He is in some strange room. Maybe it is a hospital. He does not understand where he is. Then the main character reaches out and opens his eyes. He realizes that he is a baby in the arms of his parents. Marren clan and places a plate on the table. Abel is very smart, he's only 2 years old. But he can already feed himself. His father explains that it's all because he's their son. A man approaches his pregnant wife and says that his younger sister should also be a smart child. The main character thinks that he wants Raymond. Abel Belek is his name in this world. The parents, with their eyes closed, offer prayers to Marren's ancestors, and the boy thinks that red eyes and white hair are the hallmarks of their clan. He thinks that this is a continent he has never heard of, with no electrical appliances. It is definitely a different world. Abel is already 4 years old. His life as a member of the Marren clan has officially begun. Now his hobby is creating these wooden totems. He carves them with a knife. A totem is a magical item required by the Marren clan, and is ceremonially considered to be the embodiment of a guardian deity. Abel's mother gets hurt and says that she is fine, and it is just a small cut. Her husband asks to look and heals her scratch, after which her finger glows and the wound disappears. The main character is shocked and asks his father what it is, and he tells him that it is healing magic, that it is the Marren clan, and that they use fire, water, and doll magic. The members of this clan can use magic, so his life was not a waste. The protagonist realizes that he can finally use magic. He is glad that he died, or rather, that he was reborn. He looks at his sister Jiselle. She sits on him and asks him to play with her. He asks her to let him concentrate on creating the totem. Let her play by herself for now. Then her father comes. He tells his son that he shouldn't make totems yet. He should play, walk, and look after his sister. It seems that magic is widespread in this world. This convinced him that he is not on Earth. The ideal training for the skills needed to use magic is the creation of totems. In this world, spirits live in natural objects in the air. Marin was a clan of magicians, considered a secret weapon in war, on the mountain where this clan lived. The trees were saturated with strong magic. Children born in this clan had extraordinary magical inclinations. A man tells his son that he made him a vow, that hunting is healthy and that he will become a man if he starts hunting. The war was over 100 years ago, and magic began to decline due to the peace. Abel thinks that even if he was reborn in a world where there is magic, the main character is hindered by his younger sister. He is already 7 years old, and his father says that there is no more room for totems, and what he is going to do about it. The mother reports that although he is still a child, he is trying to be better. Following tradition, he likes totems so much. The neighbors began to call their son a totem maniac. They asked him about where he disappeared to. The main character uses the magic of light symbols. He is already 7 years old, and his sister is 5. She says that it is amazing. He studies magic on his own. They were able to draw symbols with light. It took Jiselle longer. The boy asks her to keep it a secret between them, and she agrees. The magic he can learn boils down to this. In fact, his father likes this too. If you find a person who is in the war, you can consider him a sage. This is the house of the head of the village of Marren. He claims that he is 150 years old. He maintains a young appearance with magic. Abel and Jiselle are scared by his appearance. The man asks if Abel wants to learn magic from him. Even if he is a child, he will be strict with him. It would be awkward if everyone found out about this. But first he wants to understand how serious he is. Firo tells her that people seem to be practicing magic lately. She thinks that he is glad that his old knowledge will be useful. The man is her grandfather. He asks if she stood up for him and thanks him. She is embarrassed. She screams that she didn't save him on purpose. She asks him not to let her grandfather down, and the boy looks at her in bewilderment. Thus began his days of training under the village chief after learning how to properly create magic circles. His magic improved. This is what he wanted to do. He tested many things. Without sleep, he received what he so desired after reincarnation and ended up sick. It's hard trying to study and hide from his father. Parents are a pain. No matter how much time he has, it's never enough. The protagonist decides to come back as soon as he finishes. He wants to learn as much as he can. Leveling up is a lot of fun. 6 months later, the man asks Abel to show him the results of his training, and the boy confidently and with a smile agrees. The protagonist uses the light of the symbols and casts a spell. The man realizes that he can control 2 totems at the same time. This training in controlling totems with magic, it is important to apply magic circles to them in advance. Controlling totems is the basis of all magic. He did this every day before breakfast. Still not as good as the sage. The man reports that they not only carried out the command, but are also spinning themselves. Abel reports that he hasn't even started yet. The man watches in shock as the protagonist creates a wind pattern between the totems and sends it straight into the tree, breaking it. The guy apologizes in horror for this. The man is shocked that the totems themselves dodged the attacks. The protagonist reports that he made a mistake in regulating the power. This time it was not a predetermined action, who taught him to act without commands. He tried different methods and it worked. He is asked if he created this magic circle himself. Since the master was busy preparing for the festival, it took him some time. But after some trial and error, he created it. The master tearfully realizes that he can now rest in peace. He coughs and announces that Abel has nothing more to learn from him. He is the first to complete his training. The protagonist and his sister are happy. The master thinks that the magical power capable of creating a vortex of such an age, and the advanced control of the totem, this boy is a real magician. Abel admits that he wants to learn more complex magic. Now can he tell him how to train? He asks to take a book from the library. Books will help him more than he can. The protagonist at the master's house says he'll borrow the totems later, and the master asks how many he plans to take. He'll need 3 circles to get them all. The guy thinks that what he has desired for so long and everything he wanted to do, all this is possible in this world. This place is his ideal world. The protagonist holds a wooden stick in his hands, a magical tool for shortening spells and Abel's special drink that restores 1 million HP. He is reading something. It joyfully informs his 11-year-old sister Jiselle that everything is ready and she rejoices. The boy himself is already 13 years old. Abel suggests going to gather information right now. He points his wand at the farmer and wants to check his status. It's Hans. Magic points. 23. Strength points. 34. Suddenly the man notices them and the 2 of them run away. He is perplexed. The boy thoughtfully reports that the average magical power of an adult is about 20 points. Jiselle asks Abel what kind of magic it is. Abel reports that he's always wanted an RPG element to the status display. The girl is perplexed by this, and the protagonist recalls how he was reborn and enjoyed the magic in this world. He always strived for these abilities. This is the feeling of the main character in the game. The girl asks to look at her status too, and Abel agrees to this proposal. Her magic is 37 points, but her strength is only 8. Her magical power is higher than that of ordinary adults. If she starts training, her future will be promising. He was told that his father started using magic circles at 20. Perhaps it would be better to start using magic circles at 20. Perhaps it would be better to start using magic at a younger age. The current Marren clan's magical abilities are weak, which is quite disappointing. Jiselle asks Abel how much magical power he has. He shows his status. Magic, 865 points. But strength is less than his sister's, too. She reports that, as expected, his magic is much higher. He trained a lot. He thinks that even so he is inferior to the master. He looks thoughtfully at their statuses. He realizes the difference in strength is fourfold, even though he rarely even goes outside. The girl is surprised by the cute flower. Abel has a bad feeling. He then notices two boys watching them. But Abel realizes that they are not watching him, but his sister. After that, he looks at them and they run away screaming. He does not understand why they ran away, even in his previous world. As a wizard, he had few friends, and he could not imagine that it would be like this. In this world, he remembers how those boys ran away from him. This greatly upsets him, but someone speaks to him. It's Firo's voice. The girl informs him that there are rumors that Belik's son is using suspicious magic and what he's planning. Abel is impressed with himself, having spoken to anyone outside his family in a long time. He asks her if she wants to check her status, and she asks him to stop. But Abel tells her not to worry. Her magic and strength are 19 and 20 points respectively. She is the only descendant of a sage. Her magic is about the same as that of an average adult, but her strength is 10 times higher than his. He will definitely lose to her if they have a fist fight. He turns to Firo. His father will be very worried if they don't come home soon. He apologizes and she asks why he became respectful. The father angrily asks his son why he is walking with his sister so late. It is dangerous. The sister says that she went on her own. He says that even if he is the sage's disciple, he has not yet forgiven him for always playing with magic and not helping at home. The sister asks that doesn't he use totems to help on the field? He is the only one at this age who has never hunted. At this rate, he will not become a good head of the house. The main character says that he will go. Abel says that he will go hunting. The father tells someone that his son is also with them. This is his first hunt. He is glad to see his friend and his son too, Gali and Shibi. Abel thanks them for taking him in. He thinks about Artie's family. He has seen them before, but this is the first time he talks to them. He wanted to go hunting to change his poor physical condition. But that was not the only reason. There were others. His sister tearfully asks him not to force himself and to be careful. He agrees. She'll wait for him. He'll try to get her back as soon as possible. He thinks she's developing a brother complex, but he's glad she admires him. In the Marren clan, they will come of age at 16. Jiselle has no friends because she is always with him. So now that her brother is gone, he hopes that she will make friends to practice magic. He needs to focus. Even in another world, he is still distant from other people. He'd like to make friends with people his own age. The boy approaches Shibi and extends his hand, saying he's pleased to meet him, but Shibi turns away displeased. Gali asks him to shake his hand. The protagonist is angry but doesn't show it. His father informs him that magic is forbidden and that he should learn archery. He believes it can be used effectively even while hunting. He says he'll try his best. Then, out of breath, he turns to his father and asks him to go home. His father gets angry and says it's only been an hour. Abel remembers running away from a boar and understands that it is impossible. Magic is more suitable for him. If he walks a lot, he will not be able to grow. Shibi tells him that he is no good for anything. They notice a parrot shim. This bird is very tasty, and Shibi decides to kill it with a bow. Abel asks to look not at him, but at the bird. Then Shibi shoots his bow but misses the arrow at the bird, and it begins to fly towards him. His father realizes he's missed the target and will try with a knife. Abel, however, realizes the bird could be a good source of biotype magic. After this, Gali is about to attack the bird with a knife. But at the last moment, the protagonist uses sleep magic and the bird simply falls. Abel says that this method is more effective for those who are not resistant to magic. He wants to take her as a pet. Gali is surprised that he used magic without a tool. Then Abel should not learn archery, but he came to train physical strength. His father gets angry with him and suddenly a sound is heard. They think it's an earthquake, some footsteps, a loud noise, and he asks them to run at full speed. If they return, they should inform the chief, but his son doesn't want to leave him here. Suddenly, a huge bear appears, breaking trees with its paws. Everyone is shocked by this. It is a great bear. Then Gali shoots an arrow at him, but it simply bounces off. Abel realizes his fur is tough, so he uses sleep on the bear. The boy thinks that the dream worked, but his father runs to him. The bear has not fallen asleep and he attacks them. The father pushes his son away and the protagonist turns to his wounded father. The protagonist approaches him and tells him that it is his fault, he was too careless. The man tells him that he is leaving Jiselle and his mother in his care. The boy realizes that he has a hole in his stomach and will try to use restoration magic. His father tells him that he is a smart child. Everything he learned from him may not be so much, but in the end, he was able to act like a real father. The main character remembers his father from a past life. Gally uses flame magic on the bear, but it doesn't work. The bear plays with him. Then the protagonist concentrates and uses the light of the symbols. Putting his hands forward, magical patterns appear in front of him. He has such thick fur and he's sure he's never taken damage before, in which case he'll use wind blades. If he can make him feel pain, he will adjust the magic circle what he can do right now. He will pour all his magic into this attack. The protagonist is about to attack the bear with confidence and a smile, at full power. Abel thinks that if he could hurt him even a little, there is a chance that he would then run away. The boy mentally asks the bear to give up. He attacks and sees that his attack has cut down trees and left a mark on the ground. He thought he just needed to make it run away, but this is unexpected. Abel suddenly remembers his father and thinks that he has no time. He sits next to his father and Gali. The boy brings meat cut from a bear. He asks him if he can cut off a piece and he agrees, worried about his father. Abel assures him that he should wake up soon, that he has no external injuries and that the boy has cast life magic on him. But his father is in bad shape. The boy asks him if it's okay to use this, and he says no, but he'll have to work with it. The protagonist uses the adaptation. Now the bear meat will act like human flesh. His father begins to writhe. The fusion of a human with the flesh of a magical creature essentially creates a chimera, which is considered legal as a medical procedure but is banned in some cities. This is the first time he's used biological magic on a human, and there are many risks. But now is not the time to think about it. He has to do it. The protagonist's father is sleeping and the boy sighs. He will hope that there are no side effects. He should discuss this with the master later, but looks away. He doesn't want to believe that there are monsters even bigger than this bear. It's dangerous to stay here for a long time. He turns to Shibi. Abel plans to transport their fathers with the help of totems. If he can help him, Shibi agrees. They move and Shibi apologizes for what happened before. Abel says that everything is fine. If he were not here, he would not have had the strength to do enough. He helped him a lot. Shibi reveals he thought of Abel as a love rival. Abel thinks the only girl he knows is Firo. However, Shibi says that Jiselle is an inaccessible flower. The Marren clan has several surnames, so he saw them together many times and misunderstood. They walk together when they go out. The main character admits that he and Jiselle are just brother and sister, which surprises Shibi. The boy is shocked that he has to correct such a misunderstanding. They probably get along too well as brother and sister. After this, Shibi asks if he can call him brother-in-law, and Abel angrily asks if he really thinks he can do anything. The protagonist's sister joyfully greets him in tears. She is glad that he is safe and hugs him. The boy thinks that this is simply a wonderful love in the family. Abel apologizes with a smile for returning so late. The girl cries and looks straight at her brother. The main character thinks that he shouldn't do anything he's not used to. He likes to explore magic at home the most. 2 years have passed since the incident. Abel walks along the steps with a smile. He is already 15 years old. He thinks that he has been living in this world for 15 years already, and it will take 2 years before he reaches the same age as in his previous life. The protagonist looks up at the sky and becomes curious about what his friend is doing at the Black Magic Research Club. He thinks that Yai still feels guilty after the incident where he saved her and died himself. He hopes that she will stop feeling guilty since he is living his best second chance at life. Today is a very good day. 13-year-old Jiselle turns to her older brother and says that she has finally found him. The boy greets her. The main character is looking at a pole. He has recently been involved in a landscaping project. Jiselle reports that he became so big with the magical additives, at first it seems that the totem was not growing at all. Abel reports with pride that this was expected of him. She asks him why he is doing this. The protagonist wants the leaves that grow on this hand for his coming-of-age ceremony. He wants to smoke the leaves he grew himself, and Jiselle tells him there are plenty of them at home. He doesn't think he can get used to the taste. His father told him to get used to it. He learned that the taste changes depending on how they are grown, so he thought he should try growing them himself. The girl says that she realized that she hopes he can get tasty leaves. The guy tells the totem that it's time for a snack. Jiselle asks him why he addresses the totem like that. The protagonist thinks that it is because the thin and tall appearance reminded him of Mr. Gora, who helped him create the Black Magic Research Club. This man created this place for him at school. This name that will be dear to him for the rest of his life. She asks her crying brother about what happened, and he says that a grain of sand got into his eye. Suddenly, someone approaches and says that it seems the rumors about him being a recluse who doesn't know about the outside world are true. Hasn't he heard of the great Nuzwell before? Carlco. The protagonist thinks that this is a pain and that maintaining conversations is too much trouble. The boy heard that the headman's apprentice was growing a totem and personally came to see if he could give him advice. Abel said that it was generous of him to come to his aid. Perhaps the rumors that he will be shut down if he starts growing leaves are true and people will start asking something like why he does this. Marren clan has no currency, and in a village where bartering of goods is common, leaves have become a convenient substitute for money, with House Carlco monopolizing leaf cultivation. They sent subordinates to check on Abel. He appreciates that they took the time to visit him. But he is only growing the totem out of curiosity, so it is not a big deal. The guy was told that it could become a threat to his father, but there is nothing to worry about. He says with a sly smile that this could even become an even bigger profit for them. He turns to Jiselle and tells her that she will be his wife. Abel says that he must be joking. Friends tell Nozvel that he is joking, that if they injure Abel, they will die, that they need to apologize. But he asks them to shut up, that he is the strongest. When Nozvel is asked if he hasn't heard that if he gets on the blacklist, he will turn him into a chimera, or turn him into a totem, the protagonist is shocked that they say this about him. He gets angry at them and says that this is correct, well said, but the totems in his house can speak, and people told stories about how he killed a great bear with the help of magic. Nozvel asks to stop exaggerating everything. It is obvious that these are just rumors. Besides, he can easily kill a great bear himself. The main character thinks that his magic is so strong, he thought that he was the only one who was interested in magic. There are many things that he wants to talk to him about. Nozvel angrily tells Jiselle to get out from behind his back. He is the heir of the Carlco family. He finally found someone who is like him and wants to try to be polite. He turns to Nozwelu. Abel says his sister is shy, so it's better to talk. His family grows leaves, so he must be an expert in creating totems. He's working on a magic circle, but he also finds Hyvis's theory interesting, asking what paints he uses. Nozvel gets angry and is about to attack the protagonist. He knocks him to the ground. Jiselle asks Abel if he's hurting anywhere, and he says he has sand in his mouth. Nozvel realizes the rumors were a lie. He tells Abel he's not cultivating his totem properly. He says he followed proven research, and Nozvel says the Carlco family will never make that mistake. Nozvel summons a wind blade and cuts the protagonist's totem in half. His face is angry. After he starts laughing and his friends run away, saying that they are just escorts, Nozvel asks to raise him in a more suitable place next time. The main character suddenly became gloomy and his sister turns to him. He wants to say something. The protagonist understands that if this is the case, he will do it carefully. In the eastern forest, the boy tells him that he is so mean. Suddenly, he called him to carve the totem. He did not force Jiselle to stay here, so let him start carving. He asks if he is seriously trying to force him to stay here. Why is he even trying to ruin Carlco's house? He says that avenging the mountain should benefit the entire clan. Why does he think that the leaves are so valuable, but isn't it because they are difficult to grow, all because of the house Carlo regulates how much of them circulates on the market? Expressing them is not difficult if he can stabilize the magical reserve. The leader promotes magic ore into the village currency, the reason being that magic improves daily life. But the leaves disappear as soon as they are used. Carlco's house will be in trouble if their value drops. Because of this, there is a feud between the head and the Carlco house. But the Carlco house has great influence in the village, so even the head cannot do anything. He heard that they have a bad relationship, but he did not know that it was for this reason. That's why he plans to destroy the political power of the Carlco house in a way that won't affect the head by mass-producing high-quality leaves. And thus he will make the value of Carlco's leaves fall. He imagines the scales. He is asked about how they are going to do it together. If they succeed, then Jiselle will have to marry into the Carlco house. Nozvel really liked her, according to the plan. When the war ends, one of them will fall. There is poetic beauty in this. The boy reports that this is unforgivable and asks to try. He says that he will cut out as many totems as he can. They will do it. He asks not to call him brother-in-law. 3 days have already passed. Nosvel is watching something through the pipe. The guys nearby are talking in fear about how they knew he was furious. These entrance totems. Isn't this the same totem that Noswell cut down back then? He sighs and realizes that he plans to attack with the totems. Then he starts laughing out loud. He asks them if they are really stupid. They are just scarecrows. The ones inside are totems for collecting leaves. They are not going to attack anyone. Looking back, he will actually try to grow leaves. But it's pointless. To grow something on such a scale, you need 20 people, each of whom will have a large amount of magical power. Even if the totem maniac tries his best, the totems will die at best. They ask him not to ignore him because his magical power is strong. Even the head acknowledges it. Nosebell says that he is just an old man who has lived in this world longer than usual. But there is a possibility that this is some kind of scheme between the teacher and the student. He orders the boys to watch the headman's house and not allow Abel to ask him for magical support. They agree and run away. Nosvel misunderstood Abel. 2 years ago, he defeated the king of the forest, the great bear. Now he can easily provide a constant flow of magical power for about 50 growing totems. This is how the main character got an easy victory. Just 2 weeks later, they were happy that they did it. The boy tells Abel that he is amazing. At first, he was wondering if he could handle it, but they really raised them. He expected Nosvel to intervene. But despite the bad feeling, the protagonist says that it is thanks to them that he looks at Mountain 2 and 3. It is time to collect leaves. Earlier, at the head's residence, the guys were talking about something strange. They waited here every day, but neither the head nor Abel came in or out here. Nosvel angrily asks what is going on in the Bielikov house. His sister just left, but Abel was not there. Nosvel wonders if he admitted his defeat and gave up. Firo and the dog angrily ask them what they are doing here. Nosvel says that they are just here looking for Abel. The girl is surprised and admits that Abel hasn't visited them for a long time. The dog starts growling at the guys and they apologize. Nosvel says that the dog is stupid, but if she is telling the truth, then it does not seem that Abel conspired with the chief. All the totems in his field are only good for firewood, and he dropped his hands in despondency. Nosvel angrily says that no one can compete with Domo Carlco when it comes to growing leaves. Firo thinks about the eldest son of the house Carlco hanging around his house. What did he do? She thinks that something strange is happening. His coming-of-age ceremony is already close, but this is unimportant and has nothing to do with it. Meanwhile, in the Bellick's house, a man is smoking and reporting that the leaves are magnificent today. He reports that this is not at all what he has been smoking before. Abel is happy around the corner. The preparations are complete. The battlefield is the market, which will open on the same day as his coming-of-age ceremony. He says that the war will begin. The tired protagonist says that he is very tired and these clothes are too heavy. He asks Jiselle to help him undress. Garcia says that it is a good job and that he and Jiselle look like newlyweds, which shocks them. They ask when the wedding is. The boy asks them seriously. The man asks where his son ran off to. Abel asked him to go to the market. The man looks at the leaves and says he knew he was hiding something, but just think, if he went that far, or their samples, he also agrees to try and be the first customer. The man tries it and says it's great. Because of his face, he thought it would taste terrible. In fact, Abel doesn't tolerate smoke well. Sheba suddenly flies in and addresses Abel. He apologizes and says that he thought he found a great spot that wasn't taken, so he started preparing. By the time he noticed, there was another place. Someone was shouting about how this was the best place they could find for them. The protagonist happily announces that it has been done very well, and now they need to sell it before they have nothing left. He informs that this place should be left unoccupied, as people are afraid to stand in the way of the Carlco family. But even if selling the same type of product is profitable for them, they need to do it. The boy is shocked to realize that he definitely won't get away with it. The protagonist asks him to calm down. People who are looking for an incense leaf are gathering here. If they replace Carlco during the break, they will win. Although even if so, he will not stop 10 minutes pass. They are shocked that no one comes here. Abel asks Jiselle if she could bring the totems that he made yesterday, red and blue. Sheba asks him what he plans to use the totem for. Just a little secret weapon he made. Noswell approaches them, who says with a sly smile that they think they will succeed in mass production. He will also later find out who helped him, but their help turned out to be completely pointless. Nosval says his family grows leaves using sophisticated techniques and ancient traditions, and that these branded products are on a different level compared to those. The guy asks if pumping dark magic into totems is their tradition. Your house supplies poor quality goods. If they hide the taste, then it's a cheap trick. He is informed that 1 copper acole for 5 packs, 1 is enough. He crushes it with his foot and then begins to laugh. He addresses all the people and tells them that if they buy something from them, do they understand what will happen to them then? The main character gets angry and his sister comes up to him and says that she brought him totems. The guy says that this is great. Shiba asks what it is. The red totem enchants, which will help them succeed in sales. The blue one attracts customers. Their customers are tired of waiting in line. He is confident in their taste. There are half as many of them. If they can attract clients, they can change everything. The main character reports that this is not a magical technique. Beckoning cat, some kind of protective item. He was surprised to see it in the book, so he tried it. The magic circle had no effect. But this kind of magic has potential. It's adorable. Shiva angrily asks if he's okay in the head. The girl tells him that he's hurting him. Shiva's father comes up and asks to sell him some extra. He shared the test product with others and everyone praised it. Everyone told him to sell them some more. The main hero realizes it's magnificent. As if whatever he smoked before was mold, they can't handle anything but his leaves, which are good and cheap. They are surprised by the good leaves and the price. One man even bought 50 packs. People start to gather around. Nosval asks if they all know who they are going against. All the people ask Abel to sell them the leaves. They buy in hundreds. Why, they are asked to stand in 2 lines. Firo asks if she can help with anything. He asks her to keep the lines organized. Friends suggest lowering prices, otherwise they will have problems. He says that he cannot do this. Dad told him to keep the same price. Someone cuts in line, and Abel asks him to get in line. He tells him that he is doing a great job and praises him for his good work. It is the head of the Carlco family, Norman Carlco, who reveals that he is not Noswell. He angrily asks who he is, whether he left it in the store. Abel says that he is Abel, and his son is over there. He is asked if he is the totem maniac from the Bellic family. The main character thinks about it, and the man suddenly starts laughing. Nosval asks him to pull himself together. Suddenly his father falls, and Nosval says that his father is fragile. How is he going to pay for what he did? Suddenly, he is about to attack the main character and says that he will kill him. The boy asks everyone to move away. People think, great, the head of the Carlo family is with the fool's son, and the girl asks if they should stop them. Abel should know how to restrain himself, so everything will be fine. The protagonist wants it to be a justified self-defense, so he cannot attack first. Abel understands that it will be bad if he lets down his guard. Nosval says that he is strong and talented. Abel thinks about what this magic circle is above him, no matter how you rewrite it. It's a fake. Norman is of course an experienced magician, but his son is a fool who knows absolutely nothing. The magic tool only helps, increases magical power. Nosval uses a fire sphere. Then he screams and sends the sphere straight at the guy while the main character uses earth magic. The main character creates a totem right in front of a guy who is much taller than him, causing him to fall to the ground and become very scared. After that, he even starts screaming. The man is calm and says that he would not say that he is holding back. The main character thinks about what happened to Nosval. Let him attack him. Abel wonders if he still wants to make him lose his guard. He screams to be saved. The main character is shocked by this. 10 days later, word of their incense spread throughout the village. The price of leaves in Carlco plummeted, and the people exploited by the Carlco family were finally freed. Until now, they have been unfairly receiving money without putting in any effort. He hopes that now they will be able to work properly. Abel asks Nosval if he is going hunting, but he simply runs away. Abel passed on the method of managing the fields to the chief. He's confident he can handle it. He's made a fortune selling frankincense leaves. In order to start a certain enterprise, the protagonist began to do research. He sits in the cart and says that if it goes a little further, it will be good. The Imict ore cannot cope with the amount of magical power that is needed to complete long tasks. It seems that the cart stops halfway. It needs to be improved. The cargo totem is the first step toward expanding the farm. He'd rather focus on reconfiguring the totem. He suggests Jiselle take a walk, as she's bored. The girl says she enjoys just watching. He asks if she should play with her friends sometimes, and she says that if she has at least him, then she is happy. Jiselle is now 14. As always, she will hang out with someone other than their family as much as she needs. She has always spent time with him. If this continues, things will be bad. He suggests talking to his father, who asks if he is talking about incense. The father is pleased that he has made a fortune. He hopes that he will not become a second family to Carlco. He admits that this is about Jiselle. The father understands that when he is an adult, he wants to talk. She will become an adult in 2 years. Suddenly, the man asks if he wants to perform the ceremony. He tells about his wedding with Jiselle. He asks that they are brother and sister, but the father is perplexed. They usually have brothers and sisters of the clan marry. When a brother becomes an adult, if there is less than 5 years between them, he should know about it. He asks his son if he wants it, but it seems like a mix-up. Everyone's attitude always seems so strange, and now that the conversation is about this, he says that all this time he considered marriage to be the unification of different families. The father admits that even he married his younger sister. The guy says that it is not normal to marry relatives. Father thought that he had always been crazy about Jiselle, but it was the love of an older brother. Father says that he is now an adult and should use the wedding as an opportunity to become an adult. In the morning, the main character thinks that knowing this village and his father, they will definitely start preparing for their wedding. He had to avoid this. He was only interested in magic. He neglected to study the ways of this world. Jiselle was always around him. He didn't know about it, and she probably didn't either. Knowing that Jiselle was his sister, no one tried to force her to marry him. He probably did so out of spite. She knew her attitude towards this. He tried to get closer to her. She didn't even look at him. Brothers and sisters should not marry each other. He is sure that she will not want to marry her brother. They will conspire and force the others to surrender. The girl wishes him good morning and he gets scared. She understands that he has not slept. She forbids him to work all night because he has a complex body. When he finishes, then let her ride him first. He finishes and she is happy. Now he has to work longer. The main character admits that he wants to talk to her about something. She will probably be surprised. There is a lot of talk that they will get married. Anyone would be surprised. He heard it for the first time at night. The girl says that she is very happy. His coming-of-age ceremony was recently held, so she thought that it would not happen soon. But he was able to convince his father and they will get married so quickly. She is very happy. 10 years ago, her mother told her, and since then she has dreamed about it. She will marry her brother and will be able to call herself his wife. She was going to wait as long as it took until his heart was ready. This day had come so soon. The protagonist was at a loss. He needs to get into the chapter today. The test run is not ready yet and needs to be adjusted. She wants to go with him. The protagonist says no. They will talk about Ladon again, so next time. The girl comes home and her parents are discussing the wedding in 3 days. Jiselle is happy that it will be very soon. The mother informs that Abel is not interested in this, but the father does not care. He will accept it anyway. As soon as the ceremony is over, he will calm down. The protagonist goes to the chief and he says that he just wanted to consult with him about the fields. Abel says that he would like to be alone and think. So, can it wait a little? He awkwardly agrees. The guy is sitting alone in the library. He never studied the customs of this world because he knew the values and customs of his homeland. He is the only one who has such strange values. In this world, the dead turn into spirits, and spirits are then reborn in it, so they believe. And this belief is refuted by him, because he still has memories of his past life. He does not know how they will perceive it. So he didn't tell anyone and decided to just live here. But this situation arose because he was slow in many areas. If he just agreed, would everything work out? He's more worried about Jiselle than he is about himself. A closed-off magical nerd who's been told her whole life that marriage with her brother is normal, and he thinks about all of this. Then one of the totems throws a map off the table, and the main character opens it and realizes that it is a map of the village's surroundings. They had something like that here. He decides to leave the village. If he disappears, they will surrender. Jiselle will have to communicate with other people. He needs to prepare for the escape, and he tells the leader that he will take the books and totems. The leader asks him to return them, but he will decide for himself when he will return them. He tells Firo that he is in a hurry and she congratulates him on his wedding. He asks how she knew. She saw his father walking around and telling everyone, and the boy realizes his father lured him into a trap. He says he has to go, then reveals he is talking to himself. He thanks her for taking care of him and shakes her hand. She is shocked and asks him not to talk as if they are saying goodbye for the last time. The guy says that he is back. Abel says he plans to delve deeper into his research, so don't let time get in his way. His father turns to him and he reports that frankincense leaves are also involved. Father says that if he's going to lock himself away, he'll just continue preparing for the ceremony. Jiselle asks if she should bring him something to eat, but he's already had lunch with the headman and has been asked to do something delicate on a deadline, so he's in a hurry. She asks him not to collapse from exhaustion, because he has a delicate body. He says that he apologizes for bothering her. In the evening, he writes a letter saying that he will leave and will not return until he finds out that Jiselle has married, or until he marries someone himself. The main character points the wand at himself and asks to hide him. He becomes invisible to others. Many years ago, he often ran away like this. This will be the last time. He gets into the totem minecart and launches it. He wonders if he will be allowed to return. The people of the Marren clan are forbidden to leave the village unless they receive permission from the chief. He doesn't know what happens to those who break the rules, but if he is forbidden to return, then Jiselle will obviously start a family. He would like to look after her from afar. He begins to cry. The boy wakes up and wonders where he is. At this speed, he should have already reached the lake. The city of Lomar attracts crowds with its bustling trade. Where trade is strong, information flows widely, and there are a multitude of foreign objects. The main character says that a big city is great. Suddenly, the totem starts smoking and Abel is perplexed by this. His father is shocked that he ran away without even leaving a letter. The girl says that maybe because he is going to return, he left to test the totem. If he doesn't return by sunset, then we need to ask the chief to send a search party. She believes that everything will be fine. The girl clutches his note behind her back and says that she believes in him. Abel stands next to the broken totem. The protagonist is not completely sure that he replaced the ore with Liata. But there is Imictivaya, traces of forced replacement, who could have done this. The protagonist remembers that he only spoke with Jiselle about the ore problem, and he remembers that she asked him not to fall halfway from exhaustion. To get to Lomar from here, by the time he returns, he will be on the verge of death. This is the distance he can overcome. If Jiselle noticed his night escape, then why did she use such a circuitous route to stop him? Why didn't she use another option? He understands that in order to force him to break the rule, the violators will not be able to escape easily the second time. If he didn't go back, he would lose the chance to leave the village again. He hated the idea of being forced into marriage even more. He had nothing more to learn in a place like this. Further down the road, there was something he didn't know. Should he let his wonderful life end in this village, he starts crying and hears someone. Some girl in a cart is shouting to him about what happened, whether his stomach hurts. Behind her, there is a dark-haired guy. He asks them where they are going. The guy answers that they are going to Lomar. The main character is happy. He was allowed to go in and tell it. Now he will not return to the village. They ask about his eyes and hair, whether he's from the Marren clan, and what he's doing here. He admits they didn't get along, so he ran away from home. The girl tells him she's just like Maya. James came to Maya's village to trade. She often cried until he took her with him. They met only a week ago. Did they also have thoughts about the customs to which they were not accustomed? The girl says that Maya thinks so. Maya is from the Duel clan. She doesn't have a magic crystal on her forehead, and this is very problematic. There must be several distinguishing features horns and a crystal on the forehead. Perhaps when her mother was pregnant, she fell, and that's when it separated. The guy asks if it can get hurt. It's actually quite easy, like bark. And if it breaks off, it won't grow back, so no one removes them. Maya didn't have one, so she was despised. If they were strangers, it wouldn't matter. But her mother also despised her. The guy understands that she's been through a lot. She says she left and took it with her, showing the bag. These are her mother's savings. Even they don't compensate for what she did with it. From now on, she will happily travel around the world with James. He agrees. Then they notice the magical beasts of Garm. They think about why they are running after them right now. The Garms are like hounds. Magical beasts are a type of beast that are born due to similar magical power under suitable circumstances. They appear suddenly, and their appearance is difficult to predict. The chief told him that if he saw an animal classified as D or higher, it was his duty to report it. Only large bears were seen in the vicinity of the village. Maya urged the boy to drive faster. Loops lives at his house. James asks not to pay attention. They need to get away from them. He asks to throw out all the luggage. If they are lucky, they will be distracted. He asks Abel if he can use magic. The guy answers positively. He asks to scare them away. They will be a problem for other travelers if they do not destroy them. Then the main character points the wand at the Garms, and they suddenly fly up into the air like a column. The huge totem remains standing, and the guy asks his companions if this is enough. James understands that the people from the Marren clan are crazy. Afterwards, they spent the night in the forest, fished, and then set out again. James reports that they can now see the city. This huge city in front of them is Lomar. A little later, they enter its territory. The girl asks why they must split up, something James had wanted to say earlier. Abel explains that one of them might be useful to the merchant's business. The protagonist thanks him for their help. If James hadn't had Abel, he would have been in trouble. The girl hands over a bag and says that with these jewels, she can buy all of James's wheat, and then he won't have to do anything. Abel asks what she'll do with it once she's bought so much. Maya asks Abel if he will leave her. He says that he has nothing planned yet. She says that he has not yet taught her new methods of totem engraving. She wants to hear more about magical things. She says she'll be counting on him from now on, and he agrees. If there's anything he wants, she'll buy it. He asks her to save his savings. The main character, together with the girl, walks around the city and looks around, reporting that, as expected from the city, it is completely different from the village. Suddenly, he sees a shop selling magic and alchemy tools called Chimera's Tale, where a girl in a hat tells a customer that he has excellent taste. She has had this product for a long time, but he is the only one who is so interested in it. Maya realizes it's a tree trunk, but it's only a branch of the world tree. This tree, located near the center of a vast forest, possesses magical powers, and the surrounding area is overrun by monsters. 5 years ago, a team entered the forest to exterminate the beasts, and only one survived. Having lost his equipment, he used an illusion on the beasts and escaped almost naked, and then sold the branch for a high price. It is an item with a tragic history. Abel thinks her flow of magical energy is astonishing. Despite the barrier, it's still bursting forth. He thinks if she made a totem, it would be astonishing. The girl realizes that such magical tools exist in his homeland. The girl shows the bottle and asks, "What about this?" They were attacked by animals. During the panic of the monsters, they were attacked by many unicorns. The main character is surprised by this. It would be ideal to use blood as paint. If he had the branches of the world tree and blood, then he would do something unimaginable. She offers to sell it to him for 2,100,000. In the kingdom of Denlart, where Lomar is located, it is forbidden to keep medicinal herbs, and therefore all the leaves he brought are useless. Abel says that if he had real money, he would be at home and could earn it. The girl puts a bag of money on the table and asks if it is enough. The protagonist asks the girl to wait, but she says that if he wants to buy it, then she will buy it for him. He says that he cannot come to terms with this. The merchant finally found someone willing to buy the branch from her. She offers a discount. Maya is delighted, and the man asks what she gains from it. She says she doesn't mind, but she doesn't think he'll encounter unique items like the world tree very often. The main character is shocked by this. After a while, the girl lies down and enjoys the soft and fluffy futon. The protagonist sits silently and thinks about how he also asked her to cover their food expenses. But the merchant said that she would not know until she saw the finished product, thinking that if they could make the branch better, she would buy it for a high price. Abel understands that this is simply an investment. The girl asks him to watch her in bed for the first time. He will create a masterpiece, pay her back, and earn a fortune, which will make him the best totem in the world. The main character beamed, and he understands that he must repay Maya. The girl is already asleep, and Abel is carving a totem. After some time, he reports that everything is ready. It is a masterpiece of the highest class. If he learns to control it, he will be able to do almost anything. Suddenly, Abel feels something and doesn't understand what it is. Perhaps because he hasn't slept all night, he needs a potion. Maya wakes up and looks ahead in bewilderment. The girl, shocked, screams Abel's name. The protagonist wonders where the little Slakta near his house is. He remembers that his truck broke down halfway to Lomar, and he realizes that he's lying tied up. Then the door opens, and Jiselle enters the room. She tells him whether he is awake yet. The girl apologizes for keeping him here so that he could not do something reckless again. She had to tie him up for this. She removes the bandage from his mouth, and the girl asks him not to do this again. Abel coughs. The protagonist understands that she is confusing his escape in a truck with experiments. He thinks that this is impossible. He left a letter, and Jiselle could change the structure of the truck. She asks him if he is hungry. Let him eat. She cooked it herself. In the Marren clan, there is a custom that the wife makes the food. The protagonist realizes that if he eats it, he definitely won't be able to turn back. He turns to his sister and apologizes for running away. At the time, he couldn't think of anything else. His thinking is very different from the average Marren clan member. The reason is different. It's hard to believe. He thought that one day he would tell her this. The girl says she understands and still asks him to at least drink some water for the sake of his own body. The protagonist drinks and Jiselle informs him that she understood correctly. He is simply confused about everything that is happening. The girl apologizes to him and stabs him in the leg with a knife. He starts screaming loudly. The girl puts some kind of seal on him while Abel writhes in pain. The protagonist understands that his tongue is not moving. Was there something in that water? The girl reports that everything is fine. He just won't be able to walk anymore. She will always be there to take care of him. The protagonist, horrified, realizes that if this continues, he will truly lose his leg. He thinks about needing some kind of magic to resist. Maya shouts the main character's name. He opens his eyes and she realizes that he has finally come to his senses. Do magicians have a habit of sleeping and casting spells? The main character is shocked to see magic circles in front of him. The guy is shocked, thinking that he created it. This magic circle is amazing. That theoretically it can be destroyed. The guy's own talent frightens him. The girl is terrified, so he can remove it first. The protagonist removes the circle and apologizes, saying he dreamed of a scary person. He created it unknowingly. It was dangerous. He almost destroyed the region. She asks what kind of dream he had. Abel understands that he cannot remember, but rather does not want to remember. The girl understands that his fever has passed. He asks how long he slept. The answer is a day and a half. He didn't wake up, so she was worried. He thanks her for looking after him. She asks if she was helpful, and Abel gives a positive answer. It is better for him to express his gratitude. If he sells the totem, he will immediately receive a large sum of money. The guy realizes he has a totem in his hands. He cries and says it's wonderful. The girl suggests not selling it. He says everything's fine. The branch of the world tree is what Maya gave to Abel. She even pays for food. There's an adventurer's aid center where you can sell materials from magical beasts. Abel is strong. They can make money. Does such an organization exist? Now he understands how the city protects itself from the beasts. The protagonist smiles and suggests going there tomorrow. After Abel boarded James' wagon to head to Lomar, the village chief sent a search party, which found Abel's truck. After learning its location from the writing he had written on it, the clan postponed the search. Jiselle thought that he would have to return, but despite her efforts, he still did not return. Now she spent her days locked up, withdrawing even more into herself. The parents look at their daughter and think that she is poor. She is so depressed. She thinks only about Abel. The girl sits with a totem in her hands and asks the guy why he didn't come back. Then she pierces the totem with a knife. She wonders if she is going crazy. Her father watches her in shock. The shadow outside the window realizes that he has found a way. He must get this man in order to get up. Abel ends up at the Adventurer Help Center, now that he thinks about it. Will Maya be able to use magic of anything else? She reports that if they are talking about the power suitable for fighting magical beasts, she tried using magic, but those around her didn't like it. It seemed better not to ask about her clan. He thanks the girl. They came from the depths, so could they please explain what the organization does? The girl asks the guy why he registered under a different name. Mountain. He says that it looks like there will be problems. He did it unconsciously. To receive assistance, all you need is a card confirming your identity. The adventurer's actions are coordinated by an organization. They have a system according to which each person's rank increases with the accomplishment of worthy deeds. By becoming a high-ranking person, you can receive various privileges or work for the royal family. Abel thinks his benefactor is named Mountain. He saved him when magical beasts attacked. The girl is surprised that such beasts exist, capable of attacking. If he hadn't appeared, Abel would have died. He turned the beast to ashes and healed him completely. The main character smiles as he thinks that he is talking about an online game from the past world, and the girl is surprised by this. After registering, they need to come up with a plan of action. Firstly, where they should hunt. The girl asks them to wait. The man says he's been thinking about it for a while. But he and Maizen don't see eye to eye, so he apologizes. He suggests making peace and changing the subject. If Tide leaves, the girl next to him will too. She's always loved him, so let him go with her. The guy is shocked, says that he loves them both too. They walk away hand in hand. Maya looks at this and thinks that she hopes that they will be happy. Abel says they better not interfere. The guy stands up and addresses them, asking if they've thought about where to hunt. He really does need comrades. He's the leader. He just kicked out the unnecessary team members. Abel says they're all fine. He says that if they join him, he will cover all travel expenses. He also has information about a very good place for hunting. They're riding in a cart and ask the boy where his large hunting grounds are. He asks if hunting in the forest would be more effective. He says some of the barriers were removed, after which the beast hid in the ruins, so they began exploring them. Abel reads something and asks about the treasure, but it's more likely to be the magical stone that held up the barriers protecting the ruins. It must be quite valuable, plus a walk among the hordes of magical beasts they'll hunt. In other words, they have absolutely nothing to worry about. He is an adventurer of almost E rank and the leader of the group. The girl asks about when they chose him. Abel asks, which is great because he pays for everything. The guy thinks about the ruins being right in front of them. He starts scolding the research group. The fact that some lord supports him doesn't mean he can be so arrogant. All three of them sit around the fire. The girl reports that they were adamant. Two guys forbade them entry and told them to leave from here. The protagonist reports that this must be why the information hasn't yet reached the aid center. The Lord, who has the power to keep his treasures secret, will never pass them on to anyone else. They'd come all this way, so they need to wait until the sun rises. If they can see the ruins from afar, he'll be satisfied. The guy, in shock, asks them if they are going to surrender. Abel says that it is impossible to get inside, since the soldiers are carefully guarding the ruins. He says that adventurers and troubles go together. If they wait with amazing patience, then they will open the way for them. The girl reports a roar just now, and the protagonist wonders if it's a magical beast. The boy was already getting nervous while he was sitting idle. He'll show them what a swordsman's skills can do, even with a rank E. A magical beast of a lower rank asks them to attack him. The protagonist asks them to calm down. There's no point in revealing their position. A huge creature with large claws flies out of the forest, and everyone is frightened. The guy enters into a fight with this beast. He wounds the hand of this beast and reports that it was as easy as pie. The main character and Maya are surprised by this. The beast angrily begins to make some sounds, and several more beasts like him appear, all in shock from this. Suddenly the guy starts screaming and throws away his sword, to which his companions look on in surprise. He runs away and shouts to them that while he distracts them, let them run away. The main character thinks about what about the swordsman's skills. Suddenly, this guy falls to the ground and gets scared. The main character takes out a magic wand and says that it's good that he has such motivation. The protagonist creates fire magic and demands that they burn to ashes. He begins to hit the animals that almost reach the guy on the ground. The main character asks him if he is okay. This guy is shocked by this. He sits next to the killed animals and thanks the protagonist for saving him. He wants to tell him something. The guy asks Abel if he wants the leadership position, and he says that if he likes it, then let him remain one. He doesn't care. Someone watches them and thinks about white hair and red eyes, as well as about peculiar magic circles. A man with a beard and a scythe reports that this child is most likely from the Marren clan. The man calmly approaches the trio and asks the protagonist if he is from the Marren clan. The protagonist understands from his ears that he is an elf, and the companion asks the guy who this old man is. He tells about his wand. Usually they enhance control of magic and attract spirits. But why is his wand abnormal? The main character understands that he was able to learn so much just by looking at him. Abel admits that he experimented with it and thought that there was no need to include a magic-enhancing effect in his wand. The man tells him that he is quite self-confident. The guys behind turn to Adelaide. They ask him to come back with them. The dark-haired guy realizes that these are the guys they didn't let in. All three are surprised by this. The man explains that he is Adelaide of the elven race and is exploring the ruins to learn the history of his people. If they help him in his research, then he will allow them to accompany him, and if they achieve results, then he will definitely negotiate with the Lord about a reward for them. They are surprised by this. One of the guys next to Adelaide turns to him in confusion, and the man informs him that this mage seems more useful than Wagner himself. What will a wizard from the Marren clan do? The next day they all arrive together at the ruins, and the protagonist asks Adelaide if he was the one who broke the barrier. The man admits that this is true. After years of research, he finally managed to open the barrier. But nevertheless, his single-handed research had yielded so much benefit, which is precisely why he sought the local lord's cooperation. The protagonist reflects on the fact that he initially worked independently, but then the lord intervened. Abel reports that the ruins are made of a strange ore, pounding the walls with his fist. Adelaide says she believes it's the result of celestial alchemy, not earthly. Alchemy is a branch of magic that combines magical knowledge and medicinal remedies. Abel asks if this ore can hint to them about the location of the light seals. But the man is not going to play along with his interests. He asks them not to forget who their employer is, who understood that he simply wants to examine the ore. He asks the boy if he was trying to deceive him with such a question. Abel says that not at all, he had no such intentions. The man tells him that his protection is strong. Adelaide's face like this, he is quite capricious. He doesn't even give them time to rest. Yesterday he was so irritated that they were almost kicked out. The fat man can't understand the thoughts of the great elf, dragging some guy from who knows where. All this elf does is wander around without even touching the magic formulas. It's no wonder there is no progress. The fact that he was forced to follow him around is very exhausting. Destroying this type of seal requires a lot of research to make any progress. He makes Maya feel terrible, and Abel doesn't understand what's wrong with this old man. The protagonist says that there is no point in testing the magic formulas here because they are only needed to strengthen the walls, so analyzing the data from the magic seals will not help in destroying the barrier. There must be a larger magic formula somewhere that serves as the basis. The man angrily asks him how he should know, that he shouldn't talk nonsense. The guy says that judging by what he saw, the barrier seals are the same as those of the P clan. They just look different on the outside. The man tells Abel that he also understood. It's a wizard sent by the Lord, but he's just a mink and can't keep up with him. The man says it seems like the right decision to bring the boy here. The boy thanks him and realizes the old man behind him is looking at him like he's crazy. Then they find themselves in a room with a griffin statue. The man believes that the purpose of the stone statue is to strengthen the core of the seal. It can also be called the heart of the magic formula. The main character says that it is graceful. It looks like if they can open it, they'll be able to go further. There's a multi-frame barrier here, made up of several regular ones, arranged like a puzzle. The guy asks if it is 4-layer. He heard that even 2-layer ones almost never exist. But this is a trick. One of the layers does not interact with the others in any way, so it most likely has 3 layers. The man shows him his notes and research, and the protagonist explains that it's amazing, but what is this abbreviated formula? Everyone is perplexed. The man can't understand what they're talking about, and Maya is already sleepy. The protagonist creates a magic circle and says that it is quite troublesome, but it takes a lot of strength to destroy the statue with a direct attack. Abel asks about the fact that it is better not to destroy with magic. The man says that this is a banal joke. Magic that could break this statue with a direct attack would require a colossal amount of energy. But the guy thinks that using pure power is not that difficult. The man says that his audacity warms the heart. Even if such a thing were possible, he intends to keep it completely intact. The main character understands that this seal is complex. He is interested in what is hidden behind it. There must be some amazing treasure. Suddenly, someone shouts about hobgoblins. The entire group of people is surrounded by a huge horde of small goblins armed with clubs. The protagonist wonders where they came from. The man assumes they're hiding in the forest, waiting for the right moment to attack. The boy says it would be good to fight one-on-one, but there are more of them. The dark-haired man decides to create a path for the man to escape. asking if he should run alone. He asks who will accompany him then. Abel understands how this old man could become the Lord's court magician. The man tells everyone to move over. He made them regret that they came here. He uses the Ring of Light. He then attacks the goblins and orders them to follow him if they want to cut their numbers in half. Then they will run away. Adelaide's example. The main character understands that this man is reliable. He will not even have a chance to show off. Suddenly, the main character realizes something and shouts, asking to capture 3 goblins alive for him. The guy is surprised by this. He shouts that he could use them to break the seal. The man is surprised that he only needs 3. The man says it's a simple task and captures them. One of the boys doesn't want to see goblins anymore. They look like people, and killing them is disgusting. The man asks if the goblins he caught are suitable, and Abel thanks him. He paralyzed them with magic so that they would not be able to move for about 92 days. The girl in fear asks what they plan to use them for. In order to destroy the seal, the energy of a specific magical beast is required. It will take time for it to accurately determine the type, especially since for a 2,000-year-old seal, there is a chance that this beast has long been extinct. Therefore, he thought that he could use their energy as a replacement. Biomagic. If all the seals were the same, then they could deal with them easily. The man thinks that this is quite possible. He just came to the conclusion that the monster's energy is needed, but did not consider such an idea. Abel is a more capable mage than he thought. He only got the idea from his notes, but he's not sure it will work. They need to alter the goblin's organs, and they need to obtain the magic stones for it. Adelheid has several stones of the highest quality. He orders one to bring them, and he obeys. The protagonist looks into the bag and is amazed. A royal-class magic stone to help Adelheid explore the ruins. They collected all these stones. Biushutaf of them were given by the Lord himself. The protagonist, smiling, announces that now they will definitely not fail. Maya asks that he is not doing anything crazy. He says that if she cannot stand blood, then she should turn away. He cuts the goblin and the girl is horrified. He sees a flow of magic, feels a bit bird-like. He has wings, the bird croaks. Everyone is shocked by it. The protagonist states that this should work and he will leave the rest to Adelheid, who agrees and uses the magic of assimilation. The goblins are sitting next to the statue, and the magic circles are reacting, which makes the boy happy. The goblins are shaking, and there's a strange miasma all around. The protagonist calls the goblins by name and asks them not to die. The boy is shocked that he even named them. Suddenly, the barrier disappears, and the protagonist rejoices. People are happy that they can finally move on. It's a historic moment, and suddenly everything starts shaking. Suddenly, a creature appears and tells her that the annoying elf did a good job of sealing away a king like her for 2,000 years. This huge black bird informs everyone that each of them will now become its victim. The griffin said that he had done a good job of sealing away a king like him for 2,000 years. But now every one of them would become his victim. Abel got scared and started screaming about Gobaru, Mabelko, and Gobudo. Mabel started telling him it was dangerous there. He said he wanted to make them his pets after breaking the seal. Adelheid declared himself the last guardian of these ruins. Then he turned to the others and told them not to stand idly by, but to take advantage of their numbers and surround him. The man used his magical powers, then turned to Abel and told him to attack the wings. The latter turned to the king and asked how he dared to do such a thing to the Gobu brothers, then attacked him as well. The protagonist created a magical seal, at which point the monster told him he wasn't smart. Abel silently thought it was the spirit of the wind. The king asked if he really thought wind magic would work on him. The protagonist was surprised, then thought about this attack. Griffins are magical beasts linked to the spirits of the wind. So even if he were to attack him with such magic, the king asked if he was laughing at him. At that very moment, one of his wings was severed. After this, the griffin fell to the ground. The protagonist was shocked by what was happening. At that moment, his other comrades began shouting that now was the time to attack. After that, all the men ran together toward the griffin to attack it. Abel thought it was much weaker than he had imagined. Maya said that, as she had thought, it was quite strong. And when the griffin was dealt with, they approached the doors, and Adelheid opened them with her magic. The protagonist's words about the sealed ruins being revealed turned out to be true. The men began to rejoice and talk about how it had finally happened. that the arrow of God and other famous treasures were right there. The old man began to say that he would now take the initiative. But the other man had done nothing during the battle. At that moment, they heard a strange sound. Turning to the source, they saw a horde of rats running toward them. Abel said they were following the scent of all the magical beasts they had defeated. Adelaide mentioned that low-class monsters were coming one after another. At that moment, Mason ran forward and asked to leave them all to his blade. Abel explained that when he sees a weak enemy, he becomes active. 30 minutes later, everyone was tired, talking about how first there were the goblins, then the griffin, and now the rats. This was their first time fighting so many magical beasts, and it was exhausting. Adelaide said they had to go. One of the men approached him and said that everyone was tired from the constant fighting and that it would be better to lie down and rest. The man became angry at these words and said that he was a weak man. The protagonist said that he agreed with them. He thought that the corridor from which the goblin rats attacked needed to be rechecked and sealed, so they could explore everything without interference. Adelaide agreed with him and said that even he had run out of magical power after the fight with the griffin. Abel said that his strength was fine, but his stamina was almost gone. Adelaide turned to him, then with a slight smile agreed and said that they would take a little rest, and tomorrow they would resume their research again. After some time, they made a short rest stop. The protagonist sat by the fire holding some papers. Adelaide appeared behind him and asked why he wasn't sleeping. Abel said that he had already taken a short nap and had also drunk a homemade potion that helps get rid of drowsiness and improves concentration, after which he handed the bottle to the man. Adelaide said that it would be better not to demonstrate such a thing, as creating a potion from special medicinal herbs is usually prohibited in any country. The man also said that permission was usually required for him and for the biomagic he used. It seemed his village was quite unusual. Abel wondered to himself whether such confusing laws really existed outside the village. When he left for the city, he had no luggage to search, so he didn't pay any attention to it. Adelaide said he would definitely cover for him, taking responsibility for the griffin's death, and that he was to erase any evidence of his involvement in the liberation. He was grateful for everything he had done. Because he'd overlooked one thing during his analysis, he'd allowed the research to drag on for years. But he had no descendants to whom he could entrust his life's purpose. And Abel asked when he began studying the ruins of Zeshum. Adelaide said it had been about 300 years since he was born, and he's been doing this all the time. Abel guessed he was about 400, though it was hard to tell just by looking at him. A young girl and a swordsman with his abilities. Isn't it annoying to drag these useless people around? He repeated the last words, then considered whether it was true in terms of strength. But Abel still depends entirely on them for expenses. Mason is the benefactor for travel expenses, and Maya is the one for totem materials. You could say their relationship is based on mutual favors. He said out loud that he only recently left his village, so having companions makes him feel more confident for many reasons. Adelaide paused, then suggested that he go and rest. Tomorrow they would head deeper into the ruins again. Abel agreed and wished him good night. The man also told the protagonist that he expected a lot from him, after which he walked away, raising his gaze to the sky. A new day dawned. The old man sat and shouted about how amazing it was, how many royal-grade magic stones there were. Abel said he now understood what was powering the barriers. The protagonist bets there must be something else here. Elven gatherings from 2,000 years ago are nothing to scoff at. Adelaide overheard them and then moved on. The protagonist thought it was impressive that even looking at this mountain of treasure, the man remained unperturbed. After some time, they approached another gate. Adelaide raised his hands and used his opening magic. When the gates opened, they stepped inside. Looking around, Abel saw golems all around. Adelaide began to laugh. The man said that he finally got here and now he needed to do something, after which he used the spell O Fire Form Sphere. Abel asked him what he was doing. Adelaide replied that, as expected, he was something exceptional. Even among the High Elves, there was no one who could resist his magical formula. The man said that the arrow of God was too valuable to fall into the hands of a Nork. It belonged to him, a descendant of Zeshum. The protagonist was surprised by his words. He immediately asked out loud if he really was a descendant of Zeshum. Adelaide said that they, the Zeshumians, had lost their crusade and been driven from the land of the sky. The moon's magical powers barely reached the earth, causing their physical abilities to weaken, meaning their race was inexorably dying out. The protagonist pondered his words, then realized that this was the reason he thought he looked older than his actual age. Adelaide said he couldn't deny his ancestors. The man said they built this stronghold to suppress the land's power. All this was done solely to force the country to fall so that they, the Zashumites, could retake the throne. However, the king of Zashum made a grave mistake at that time. He fell in love with the daughter of the Minx. The king, who had become involved with the Minx, erected a barrier over the entire Zashum stronghold, destroying it. The mingling of their noble blood with the foolish and short-lived Minx is unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable. The king murdered Adelhaide's ancestors and shamefully concealed their true history. Maya was shocked by the man's words. He continued, explaining that these golems were created using Zeshum's methods to serve as weapons. To fire the god's arrow, they'll need a huge amount of magic stones. With the remains of the barrier and everything he's collected, he'll have enough materials for 3 shots. He'll conquer the land, and then all the magic stones, and rule over all. People immediately started asking about weapons and conquering the land. Abel wondered if he really wanted to collect such a huge amount of magic stones and why he'd revealed his plan. Then the man offered to become his right-hand man. The protagonist was shocked by his words. He addressed the man by name. At that moment, Maya called out to him. Abel said he pretended he hadn't heard him. Adelaide chuckled and said that after all, he was just a child. He was sorry, but he hoped he could save his head. At that moment, smoke surrounded them. The protagonist summoned his totem and commanded it to transform. He then used the power of absorption. Afterwards, he turned to Maya and Mason and told them to approach the World Tree Totem. They had already rushed towards him. After this, Abel commanded Totem to absorb all the smoke. It obeyed, after which all the smoke was destroyed, and the people lay exhausted on the ground. Adelheid asked him if this was really what he was hiding, as one would expect from a Marrens, a user of wooden totems. Abel turned to the man and asked him to surrender. Adelheid said he couldn't convince him. The boy said he couldn't lose in this situation. It would be hard to hold back, so he again asked him to give in. The man said that if his people were not here, he would definitely have lost, but there were some circumstances. After which he took out a crystal and, turning to the golem, ordered him to obey. Adelheid turned to Abel and told him that this was a soldier of Zeshum, a white giant of destruction. He would remember his name as the one who had made the greatest contribution to Zeshum's rebirth, and therefore he must accept this and die. Maya immediately started screaming. Mazin turned to the protagonist and suggested they run away, as the golems were moving too fast. At that moment, the protagonist said that everything was now clear to him. Abel approached one of the golems, then used his power to command it to obey. Adaliide was shocked by his words. The man said it was impossible and asked how he knew the formula for influencing the golem. Abel replied that he had analyzed the data from the barrier's dissolution. Adelaide was surprised that he'd actually deciphered the encryption with just one glance. But without the enormous magic stone, the golem wouldn't activate. The protagonist pointed to one of the golems and said he'd managed it. The man said he didn't have elven blood, so he couldn't suppress the order. He jerked his hand upward and commanded the white giant to move. At that moment, the protagonist also addressed the golem and told it to obey. And at that very moment, all the golems obeyed him. Adelheid was surprised. The golems began attacking each other. The man said that this couldn't be possible, only through human magic. He jerked his hand again and commanded the white giants to move. But they didn't obey. Abel said that he had taken control of all the golems in this room. It was useless to try to overcome his barriers on them. Adelaide started screaming at him not to mess with him like that, then began attacking him with her magic. Other people started getting hurt too, so the boy begged him to stop. The man started to run away. The protagonist called his name and told him to wait. He didn't know what kind of weapon the arrow of God was, but he still couldn't let him fire it. Abel addressed the others and said that it would likely be dangerous, so the girl should wait for him here. Maya explained that she wasn't particularly useful, but she could help by carrying the World Tree Totem. After that, she asked him not to leave her behind. He agreed with her and told her to be on guard while following him. Mason immediately asked if things had gotten out of control. In truth, he was already preparing to flee. but a leader's role is to watch his back and protect his subordinates, and he would go with him. After that, the three of them ran after Adelaide. After some time, Abel said he would wait for them there, then asked them to somehow stop the man. His fellow travelers were shocked. He said he was running out of stamina. The cumulative fatigue from analyzing everything in the ruins had finally caught up with him, and he was out of potions. His comrades said they couldn't stop the man without him. Maizen placed him on his back. Abel asked him not to swing so hard, as it would only make things worse. He asked the latter why he had become an adventurer. The protagonist said he just wanted to make a quick buck. Maizen said he was once saved by an adventurer. When he was a child, he wandered alone into a magical beast's nest. Just when he thought he was doomed, as the monster was about to attack, a passing adventurer came to his aid. Maizen said that he doesn't think he can stop Adelaide on his own, but as the current leader, he will do everything to help them. The protagonist asked if he looked really pathetic right now. Maya couldn't find an answer. After some time, they arrived. Maizen asked about how high they'd climbed, then turned to the others and asked if their enemy could really be right beyond this hall. When they went inside, the main character said that it was too dark there, he couldn't see what was going on. Maizen approached Abel and asked if he could take control of the creature in front of him. Abel denied this, saying he dealt with those golems before. But perhaps he could do the same with this one. This is all because Adelaide had enough time to perfect the barrier. Maya asked if they really had to defeat this golem. Abel said they were lucky the room was so big, he could multiply the spell's power and fire it at the golem. At that moment, Maizen abruptly ran toward the enemy. They tried to stop him. When the boy reached the golem, it made a very loud noise, frightening him. After that, it started chasing after him. Maya screamed its name. Maizen said that they should go and stop Adelaide, and then they would definitely tell everyone about his story and make a hero out of him. At that moment, the protagonist said that shouting was useless. He wouldn't hear him. Since they were in a hurry, he would eliminate the golem. The protagonist raised his wand, then created a magic seal and used an enhancement spell. The magical metal item appeared before them. It is a metal made from the amalgamation of magical power, spirits, and other elements in the air. Its quality varies depending on who crafted it. After that, the guy launched the ball straight at the golem. Abel said it was good, but it seemed to have stopped moving. As it turned out, he broke in the floor in one of the columns with his ball. Abel said he hoped the local lord wouldn't make him pay for the damage after that. Maya suggested blaming Adelaide. Abel agreed with her and said that at least this time it was truly forgivable. In fact, they should be glad that this was all the damage they had caused. At that moment, the earth began to shake. Maizen asked what was going on. Abel immediately asked if the damaged column was really one of those unbreakable pillars. And at that moment, he saw a door nearby. He turned to Maizen and asked him to pick him up and carry him to the door. The latter asked if this situation was really that bad, shouldn't they run away from here? Abel began to say that if they didn't do anything, something bad would happen. He thought to himself that it would be a shame to lose such a knowledgeable person. He recalled their private conversation. He also recalled Adelaide's last words about how much he expected from him. He wondered what it would be like if they had met somewhere else. Maizen asked them to leave this madman behind. They couldn't deliver a group of people who had been sedated. Besides, the man wouldn't be able to simply return to the city after what he'd done. He'd surely be executed. The protagonist thought that Adelaide would rather die in the ruins that he had been preserving all these years than be executed in the city. Maizen spoke again about how they needed to escape, telling them to climb onto his back. Abel asked for a second. If he fixed the golem, he could get it working, and they could escape riding on it. After a while, the door opened. The protagonist and his team appeared on the threshold, riding on one of the golems with several more like them nearby. When they had driven a fair distance, they stopped. Maizen exhaled heavily and said he was glad they had made it in time. He said that Adai would be buried alive, which was a great pity. Abel asked what the arrow of God was. He was holding some kind of crystal in his hand. The girl asked him what it was. The protagonist said it was a piece of wall from under the rubble. He picked it up before they escaped. But it's a truly strange ore. He's certain the elves made it using alchemy. When he released the piece, it began to float. Abel said it had a property that altered its buoyancy when the right wavelength of magic was infused into it. He remembered Adelaide's words about how 2,000 years ago, the elves who descended to Earth had built this fortress to reclaim the heavenly land. But he couldn't understand why the elves of Zashum had built it so far from the heavenly land. At that moment, Maya called out to him and told him to watch. When the protagonist looked up, he saw a fortress floating in the sky within a large barrier. As it turned out, Adelaide was there. He said that the time had finally come, that Zashum's awakening had begun. The man reflected on how he apparently hadn't defeated the beast model golem. He was certain his previous enemies had worn him down. After controlling so many golems like he had then, he certainly wouldn't be able to use magic and continue fighting. Adelheid laughed and said that in the end, no one but an elf could defeat Zashum's weapon. He then looked at the seal on his hand, and then turned his gaze to the plain. The man said he would begin by firing a god's arrow into the city of Lomar. A city of that size would be reduced to a blazing field with a single shot. It was crucial to stage a grand display to demonstrate his power. Adelaide asked the heavenly country of Alfheim to wait. This time he would definitely bring her down to earth. At that moment, the tower began to shake. He was surprised by this, then saw that the barrier had been damaged. He began to wonder where an attack capable of damaging it could have come from. Mason said it was amazing, then asked how he managed to send that piece of metal so far. Maya started screaming that they needed to get it down from the sky. At that moment, they saw the crack in the barrier disappear so quickly. Adelheid watched them through the screen and laughed at their expressions. He said there that the barrier has the ability to auto-repair. The barrier of this fortress cannot be broken without destroying all its nodes around it by cutting off the power supply. Maya was shocked that even though their attack had succeeded, Abel asked if this was the type of barrier that automatically regenerated. Mazen said attacking him was pointless. The protagonist reflected that, judging by what he'd just seen, it took about 15 seconds for the full recovery to occur. He declared that was good, then raised his wand. Adelheid thought it was amazing that he'd caught up with him. And then he thought, okay, now the guy should retreat. Suddenly, the man felt another blow to the barrier. He said that these attempts were pointless. It seemed the man didn't understand that he needed to give up, because simply relying on magical power would be useless. But he didn't finish. At that very moment, the fortress began shaking violently, surprising the man. He turned to see what was happening. The protagonist said that if one attack isn't enough, all he needs to do is continuously attack at a speed that his repair ability can't handle. Mason is surprised he decided to resort to brute force. Adelaide began to scream that Abel be damned. He took him with him thinking that he would be a useful assistant, but he turned out to be the death of his goals. This is the might of the warrior clan, those known as the gods of death on the battlefield, the Marren clan. He will never forgive him again. He would rather die than allow his plans to be thwarted. Adelaide used his power and ordered the weapons to be deployed. All the fortress's cannons were immediately pointed outward. Maya saw this and was frightened. Mason mentioned that it seemed like a whole bunch of guns had appeared there, after which he asked what they should do. The boy repeated his last question. He then used his magic again, summoning the magical metal chitin. Several of them appeared and then flew toward the fortress. Maya said it was incredible. Abel said that the magical metal created by his power couldn't possibly lose to these stone tools. Mason was surprised that he was once again using brute force to solve everything. The protagonist said that he would soon be able to put pressure on him to get answers. It would be bad if he shot into the city. Adelheid started screaming that it couldn't be. The fortress that hadn't received a scratch for 2,000 years. The work of his whole life, the hope of Zashum. The man couldn't imagine that he would have to use a weapon designed to bring a celestial kingdom crashing to Earth. He immediately pressed the button and decided to use the god's arrow. The protagonist and his team watched from the ground. Mason asked what it was, Maya said it was creepy, and Abel wondered if this really was the arrow of God. This is likely the sound of expended spirit energy. It's usually so quiet that humans can't detect it. But in other words, such a weapon requires a tremendous amount of magical power, supplied by numerous celestial spirits. The protagonist said it was just a guess, but judging by the burst of power emanating from the crystal, it would likely fire a laser. The others were shocked by his words. Abel said he didn't think the magical metal could withstand something like that. There was no way to make it stronger. Maya interrupted and suggested they run. But the boy wouldn't listen and said he'd try something. He tossed Maya an object and asked her to support it. Mason asked if he wasn't planning on using his staff. He explained that it was only needed to help him gather spiritual power for the spell. At this time, Adelahide screamed at Tom that this was his end, calling him the magician Marren, after which he asked him to disappear. At this point, the protagonist was thinking about compressing the fireball, then creating a new layer and then compressing it again. Theoretically, this could destroy anything. He'd call it Able Ball. The guy stumbled upon this spell when he passed out that time. He didn't think he would have a chance to test it out so soon. After the orb was created, he directed it straight at Adelide's fortress, which the latter was surprised by. When the ball of this enormous power hit the fortress, a huge explosion occurred that illuminated everything around. The scene took place in the city. Maya was sitting and eating a burger, after which she asked if her interlocutor agreed with it. She was referring to the report compiled about the destruction of the magical beast and the awarding of the reward to Mason. Abel responded that his rank advancement could change depending on the report, and he, after all, hadn't done anything on time either. He also said that the griffin simply vanished, along with the ruins. He could always easily rise in rank if he set that goal. He recalled the events after Abel Ball stopped the god's arrow. When the explosion occurred, Mason immediately shielded Maya with his body, and she covered her ears. At that moment, Abel decided to use his wind magic. Gusts of wind reached Adelai's body, which was floating in the air, and then gently lowered him to the ground. Mason asked why he did it, but the protagonist replied that he would leave his future fate to the city's discretion. Maya told the guild that the ruins collapsed, then Abel, after the blow, began to control the golem, and it exploded with a blinding light and an explosion occurred. The girl said that it was truly something, and she answered them. The old man asked her to translate her words. Then he asked if they really meant to say that they had stopped the ruins from turning to dust. The man started shouting that no mage could do this. Did they really want to rake in the achievements? That was the reason he didn't want to get involved with the villagers. The protagonist thought that even if this man believed everything he said, it would still bring trouble, so he thinks that the result is quite good. Suddenly, they heard two young men talking about the barrier's destruction. One of them was talking about hearing an explosion. The other was talking about how one of the elves working for the land's master had tried to seize the ruins but had blown it up instead. And now this elf is in prison, having escaped the death sentence. Abel said that in any case, now that the ruins are gone, there's nothing they can do. He doesn't know what Adelaide was thinking. As for him, it was this man who first taught him magic since he left his village. He's happy for him, and he's not someone he'd want to kill with his own hands. The protagonist silently wished the man all the best. At that moment, he heard the brunette say that the elf was a bad person. Although he'd always thought elves were smarter than humans, following their desires and ultimately destroying the ruins was too foolish. At that moment, Maya asked if she was right. Then elves were a very proud race. So this conclusion about this incident, that he had become enraged by his desire, was pure hell for Adelaide. And at that moment, Mason called out to them. He asked the protagonist if his body was okay, to which the latter replied that he had not been able to get out of bed for 2 days. He was in a lot of pain, and he needed his potion. The guy said that he received information about a wanted man. He is sure that Abel will cope with him perfectly, although this time he will not be able to go with him because he has another case. Mason mentioned that the two guys had asked him for help the other day. The protagonist asked if they were the same guys who had caused the ruckus in the guild. Mason immediately remembered how after completing the mission, those two ran up to him with happy faces and said that they heard that he had risen to E rank. They congratulated him on it. He was surprised by their words, tried to understand what was happening, to which they replied that they had been looking for him since everything happened. To be honest, they're not very good at taking down magical beasts when he's not around, so they asked him to lead their team again. They asked him to come back as the leader. Mason was delighted by their words and said there was nothing he could do. He'd do it. Maya said she was so happy for him. Abel wondered if they'd only called him after he'd received his rank. Was he really happy with everything? The main character said that he simply cannot say no, does not know how, after which Mason asked about the wanted person from the rumors. Meanwhile, at a meeting in the Marren clan's main house, the leader thanked them all for coming, then said they had some problems, but first he needed to apologize for his mistake. Abel did leave notes on how to grow frankincense leaves. but his method cannot be recreated. It is something only Abel can do. The man said they realized this from the way everything was written here. At this point, Abel's father, Zalrut Belik, began to get angry with his son. He thought about how something like this happened when he thought he could finally gain a good reputation in the village thanks to his right to the incense leaves. At that moment, one of the men stood up, after which he began to laugh loudly and ask if it was really impossible to recreate them. It turned out to be the head of the Carlco family, Norman. He said that in that case, he had nothing to do here. If Abel's fragrant leaves had disappeared, then he had nothing to worry about. The leaves of their family would rise again. At that moment, he threw down the bag of coins and said that to hell with these magic coins. Everyone who looks down on him will pay dearly. Others at the meeting began to say that he was such a petty man, and had he ever considered that people who had tasted Abel's fragrant leaves would have a hard time returning to their old ways? But still, it really does benefit the Carlco family. Chief Marren said that for now they might mix some of Abel's fragrant leaves with other products before distributing them. They'll slowly adjust the composition so everyone gets used to the new product. He thought to himself that once they were able to establish the magic coin system, the incense leaves did their job well. With its help, they could avoid the deterioration of the incense leaves. The man said that they would continue to discuss the main topic in secret. If it came to light, a riot could break out. The head said the Rieta family would help the Carlco family develop. Suddenly, the man sensed something. He went outside and thought he'd sensed a strange magical force. Then he turned and thought that all the competent mages in the village should be in this hut right now, waiting for Abel. It was probably just his imagination. At this moment, Totem knocked on the window and appeared on the sill. The girl greeted him. This totem conveyed the words of the leader of the congregation. The girl said that she was wondering why the head of the village and her father were no longer worried about her brother. She was sure that he was now scared and alone in the middle of an unknown land. And suddenly she noticed something and said that this should work. She was sure that the head of the village would also seriously take up the search for her brother. She mentally turned to him and simply asked him to wait. It turned out to be Jiselle. She said with a smile on her face that his little sister would definitely come for him. The northern border of the Dinlart Kingdom, the main temple of Keitel. Dark smoke filled the corridors, and the man turned to his interlocutor and said that she had done well in removing the seal from the staff. The girl mentioned that many years had passed since she'd seen the outside world, then turned to the boy and asked if he knew she was a greater demon. He replied that she was the great demon of knowledge and destruction, Zolamonia. Suddenly, the girl sensed something. She thought she saw a spirit nearby. The last time she saw him, he was only of middle rank. He'd grown up. Zolamonia turned to Magus and told him to head south. He agreed and asked where exactly. She explained that they should head to Lomar, Dinlart Territory, Lomar, Adventurers Guild, Western Branch. The girl looked at the items in front of her and said they were the ear and skin of a head-eating demon. The others, hearing this, began to ask if this was really the main demon eater. He had such tough skin. Many adventurers had broken their swords on him. Could this boy really have done this? The protagonist stood there in shock and said nothing. Maya said it felt like they'd somehow become famous. Abel thought to himself that it was more like something else. People started saying that it was clearly an ear from another beast and he had simply painted it black to make it look real. Or that he had simply found the corpse. Others were not sure that this demon was as strong as they said. Abel thought this didn't feel like recognition or respect at all. At that moment, the guild administrator mentioned that the rank verification might take some time. This was the first time they dealt with such a rare material. The protagonist thought he could literally feel those sidelong glances. It would be quite a problem if he had to deal with this every time he came to exchange. There was a chance he'd start being watched from above when he reached C ranks. As far as he knew, normal adventurers strive to achieve a higher rank to gain fame. But he needed money, and that would be problematic if he couldn't move freely. He began to think of other ways. At that moment, he heard a voice asking if this boy had really defeated the head-eating demon. A huge man approached him and said that lying was bad. The others recognized it as Gaston. One of the men started yelling at him to stop, as they'd received so many complaints about his bad behavior that if he continued causing problems for the adventurers, it would be bad. Gaston said that this was sometimes the right thing to do, as some adventurers tried to cheat the guild to increase their rank. He asked them not to fool around with him just because they were lenient towards low-ranking adventurers. The man said it was all because of people like Abel. There are talented people who can't get their rightful place. To which the bespectacled man responded that it was their job to assign and evaluate rank. Gaston said the head-eating demon's danger rank was considered higher than sea cranks. This guy couldn't defeat him, which cast doubt on their assessment skills. Abel asked him what his rank was. Then two guys jumped up and said that Gaston was D rank. He was a veteran among veterans after all. He had been a D rank adventurer for the past 10 years. Gaston immediately asked him if he really meant to say he couldn't get up even after so many years. The second man began to apologize. The protagonist thought he understood everything. Abel thought that he was just a bandit with a trained body, but not cute enough to be hired by the nobles. The protagonist scratched his chin and thought with an anticipatory smile about how he could use it. Abel turned to the man and asked if it was really him again. It would be bad if they made even more noise. But how about talking privately, in a back alley? He asked Maya to simply wait for him there. The protagonist and Gaston went outside. The latter said he should praise him, as he had more courage than he thought. Gaston asked him if he thought he was ready, to which Abel replied that he should wait, that he just wanted to talk. The man didn't believe him and asked again. The boy thought that if he beat him half to death here, it would only make the other hunters even more jealous, and he didn't want that. So he said it was true. He wasn't the one who went after that demon. Gaston asked him if he admitted it wasn't true, so he shouldn't think he could get away with just saying he was sorry. Abel replied that he was simply exchanging money for another man who had lost his status an adventurer. He couldn't tell him his name. He was a very dangerous man, so it was best not to tell anyone, otherwise he might kill Gaston too. Afterwards, he thought to himself that the lie had been too obvious. Gaston exhaled and said he'd known it all along. He could see right through him. Abel thought he was glad he was such a fool. The man told Tom that if he wanted him to keep it a secret, it wouldn't be free, and then asked for money. Abel replied that he also needed money to live, so he couldn't give it to him. Afterwards, the protagonist asked him what he thought about the next time this guy asked him to trade materials for the job. Gaston was surprised by his words. Abel said that at first he enjoyed the fact that it raised his rank, but it was strange for someone as weak as him to do something like that. But if someone as strong and tough as he started doing it, they wouldn't attract attention. The guy also added that he would still keep the money he received in the exchange. That way, they would both come out on top. Gaston asked if he really meant he could rake in the cash. Meanwhile, his friends were talking about how no one in this town could survive a fight with Gaston. The other one was pestering Maya, telling her she was cute. She, meanwhile, was saying out loud that Abel was very strong and everything would be fine. At that moment, the door opened and Gaston appeared. One of the boys immediately called out to him, then asked if he was finished with the other boy. Gaston punched one of the guys and asked what the hell they were doing there. No one expected that. The man said that making a girl cry like that was the lowest of all acts. His friends asked why he did this to them. The main character also appeared and apologized to the girl for the wait. Gaston turned to the boys and asked if it wasn't shameful to constantly gossip about other people's achievements. They started talking about what he'd started. But he interrupted them and said they'd gone completely wrong, so he'd have to teach them some sense. Abel promised Maya he'd tell her everything later. After some time, they ate and he told them the whole story. He explained that with this, they could continue hunting monsters without worrying about anything, and they would use the money to buy equipment for the next hunt. The protagonists began listing their needs for provisions and a new knife. Maya asked him why he needed so much money. Abel said it was all for his daily expenses, and he owed her the money back. At that moment, the girl abruptly rose from the table. She asked him why he wanted to return the money so much, since she had said that he shouldn't return it, which made her ask if he really wanted to leave her alone so badly. The girl started asking him if it was because she was useless, that she would try her best. Abel started telling her to wait, but that wasn't what he meant. The main character thought that all she thinks about is that someone always wants to leave her. What happened to her in her hometown? Abel said he wasn't so shameless as to be indebted to a girl, and besides, there were many other things he wanted to do, so they needed to get everything first. Maya asked him what he wanted to do. He mentioned wanting to create magical tools from chimeras and golems, or, more precisely, he wanted to try making a handheld telephone. She immediately asked him about it. Abel once read about a species of monster that can use magic to communicate with each other from afar. Basically, they use a magical electromagnetic wave line. If he can create a handheld telephone in this world, it will definitely become popular. The very thought of it delights him. Maya said she still can't imagine it. The girl mentioned that he had big plans. At that moment, they were distracted by a knock on the window. It was Mason. He greeted them and said that they seemed to be getting along well. The boy asked the protagonist if he had noticed anything strange in the forest. The latter asked him again. Maya wondered if he was talking about something like the fish they'd found headless, scattered near the river. Abel said the monster must have eaten them. Other than that, he hadn't seen anything strange. Mason said they actually went in the opposite direction, but when the order came, it was to send all adventurers below B ranks back. Abel believes the order will reach the Adventurers Guild soon. Then the boy mentioned that it seemed the detachment sent by the Lord had been ambushed. Abel immediately asked how it had happened. After some time, they decided to head into the forest. Maya asked him if he was okay. Adventurers below rank B were forbidden from entering the forest. Abel replied that the griffin in the ruins of Zashum was also rank B. That's precisely why everything will be fine. The girl said they said she was part of an expedition group looking for a living tree. If that's true, it should be somewhere here among all the trees. Maya said that as she'd thought, exploring the area alone was dangerous if that was the case. At that moment, something happened to Abel, and she immediately asked what had happened. The protagonist mentioned he'd sprained his leg. After a while, they stopped for a rest. He greedily drank water, happy to finally be able to rest. The girl asked him if he was really okay. Abel said that his wand would react if it sensed a strange magical force around it. But he couldn't keep his hand raised while walking. He came up with a solution, summoning the totem. He decided he'd simply have it lead the way to detect any magic. She asked him if it wasn't tiring to constantly support her. The protagonist told her not to worry, he'd never run out of mana before. The girl calmed down and said they should go then. Maya said that teleportation magic was indeed convenient, but could it be used to teleport their luggage, or to teleport them directly to the heart of the forest? He replied that he couldn't use that magic. The World Tree's totem has a large mana reserve, allowing him to teleport over great distances. He once wanted to use it to escape the village, but he had to prepare a magic circle beforehand. Abel explained that he could teleport back to the hotel, but that would mean leaving her alone. She asked the girl not to do that. She would work hard carrying the luggage. He replied that he wouldn't do that. Abel walked along and talked about the demonic tree. He couldn't wait to see it. It possessed great magical power, and he wanted to make a totem out of it. Maya asked if it was really from a tree that also attacks people. The guy didn't listen, saying that he could find trees with high magical power anywhere in the village, but there were almost none here. The protagonist said he had made an all-encompassing totem from the World Tree, so he wanted to try making a combat totem. At that moment, Maya saw a beautiful flower. Abel said it was a papolga flower, which usually has red petals. She said this purple flower was also beautiful. He remembered reading somewhere that its color could change depending on the magical power around it. At that moment, they heard a voice that told them to worship him as a god or die. Maya immediately asked what the voice was. Abel realized it wasn't an ordinary voice. It had been sent directly to their heads. At that moment, they heard a sound, after which an incomprehensible object appeared before them. The protagonist said it was already there, looking more like a tree inhabited by a demon than a magical beast. A necessary evil. A tree possessed by a demon. A clump of spirits, also known as a spirit beast or great spirit, when it dies, it disperses and returns piece by piece to the lesser spirits. Maya commented that he looked like an evil totem. The tree immediately asked her how she dared compare him to a simple statue. The protagonist told the girl to leave. Abel turned to the tree and said that a mere statue was a very bold statement. He would show it the power of his masterpiece. His assistant appeared before him. At that moment, the tree began attacking his totem, but the latter deftly dodged every attack. The demon remarked that he was a cheeky boy, to which the boy thought he was clearly about to faint. When the tree began attacking the totem, he easily dodged the attack again, leaving the tree in shock. Abel explained that he had installed a simple combat protocol in his World Tree totem, so physical attacks wouldn't work against it. The demon began to get angry, claiming it was just a totem and continuing to attack him with incredible force. Meanwhile, the protagonist was wondering what to do next. Maya asked him what he meant. His World Tree totem is all-encompassing, so it doesn't have much firepower. He's considering creating a battle totem soon. Maya asked about how they can't win this battle by dodging alone. The main character said that he was really just curious about what would work best against this tree. These roots move too slowly for a tree with such a large magical power. Perhaps he distributes his magical power between each root. Then he began to reason about what he needs to do. Maya said that this guy had nothing in his head but totems. At that moment, the tree began screaming for the wind to blow it away and then sent a whirlwind in their direction. Abel's totem was blown away by the blow, leaving a deep furrow in the ground. Maya immediately called out to him. The tree asked if they had seen it. Its power was far greater than that of this simple totem. The protagonist thought that he didn't even think that he would use another type of attack besides physical. It seems that he still needs to make some improvements to his World Tree totem. Abel summoned his totem, which immediately appeared before him. Maya burst into tears of joy. The tree was shocked by what was happening. The protagonist said he thought they should stop playing these games. The tree asked how he could even say that, considering he was a god. After all, the protagonist used wind magic. At that moment, the tree collapsed, its roots spreading across the ground, all its leaves falling off. Abel explained that he had simply dispersed the spirits and returned them to their original forms. His clan was indeed an expert in such things. First, he needs to assess its condition. The magical conductivity is quite high. He could even use this material for a piano. He could adjust its height, cut out the root, and use it for something else. After some time, he finished his machinations with the tree, then turned to the girl and told her to watch. He created a battle totem, which he would name Ashura 5000. Then he commanded the totem to dance. The protagonist asked her to look at this masterpiece, then asked if it wasn't amazing, if it was incredible. Maya was shocked and simply agreed with him. Then she asked why it had that name. Abel explained that it was roughly the number of totems he'd created before him. Then the girl asked about how they wouldn't be able to take him with them because of his size. The protagonist said that just like his World Tree totem, he can teleport it. He will count on it when he needs it. Abel was wondering if this route would be considered proof that they had fulfilled the request. Thanks to this tree, he had a clear plan on how to make a phone, so he just needed to collect more money. At that moment, Zolamonia sensed something. Magus asked her if something had happened. She wondered if her old friend had teleported, as she suddenly couldn't sense his presence. The girl wondered if she could still somehow sense magical power, and maybe she was simply mistaken. She said out loud that nothing special was happening. The Magus asked her if they were heading to Lomar. Zolamonia said it was a good idea. Since she'd finished the warm-up, they'd move on. She was looking forward to this moment, and the changes they would bring to this world. At that moment, the protagonist was in bed, and he saw Jiselle in front of him, telling him everything was fine, even if she couldn't walk anymore. He also saw Zolamonia with her student. He didn't understand what was happening. A new day dawned in Lomar, the Adventurers Guild's western branch. The brunette said he'd take the chance and quit his job as an adventurer. The other asked what he was going to do. They had no other skills or connections. He also mentioned that they still had loans for their weapons to pay off, and even without paying for them, he wasn't sure he'd have enough money to even eat tomorrow. At that point, someone patted him on the back. The protagonist told them to rejoice. In fact, Gaston cleared out the nest of monsters in the northern forest, so he is sure that the ban will be lifted soon. The guys took his words with hostility, asking him to stop talking nonsense when they needed the money so badly. To which the guy replied that he was telling the truth. After this, the protagonist pointed to the entrance and asked to look inside. Gaston entered holding a bundle. People started saying that there was no mistake here. This was the same telepathic black root that could cause powerful winds, like the monster that destroyed the teen they sent. People started asking if Gaston had really done it, even though he'd been a D-rank for years. They knew he'd succeed. The administrator apologized for keeping him waiting. This kind of thing requires a special kind of examination. The man replied that he understood. When he was questioned about the circumstances, he replied that he didn't remember all the details about the pathetic monsters he had defeated. People began to say that this was incredible, the words of a true professional. The administrator asked them to follow him to a special stand, to which he agreed and said he wanted it to happen faster. People began talking about how they could now return to the forest again, remaining adventurers. The protagonist said he was glad he'd taken his place, as thanks to him, the problem had been resolved without attracting unnecessary attention. Maya said she hoped nothing unpleasant would happen as a result. At that moment, the door to the guild opened. A man appeared who asked for help. He said that something terrible had attacked them, to which he was asked what happened. Was it a magical beast or what? People began to say that just when they thought they had defeated the forest monster, someone else had taken its place. They turned to Gaston and began asking him for help. People started chanting his name. The man thought about how everyone relied on him. Now he remembered he didn't become the one everyone hated because he always wanted that. He wanted to be a hero. He started talking out loud about how they should just leave it all to him. He walked away and people started saying they would follow the man. They would show him the power of adventurers. At that moment, Mason pushed his way through the crowd. He called out to the protagonist and told him to follow him. He explained that something had happened to Tayat and Lisa. He then revealed that the two had turned into statues. Maya was shocked to see them petrified. The protagonist mentioned petrification magic. Could it be that the one wreaking havoc in the city wasn't a beast at all, but a mage? At that very moment, he heard people screaming to run, lest they be turned to stone. Mason began to talk about how the villain was in a certain place. There was no one he could rely on more than Abel when it came to magic. When they arrived at the square, they saw that the people had been turned to stone, and Gaston and the other adventurers had also fallen under this spell. Mason saw a dark-haired boy on the roof and told him the source was here. Manga started talking about how stupid they were and how they'd come here to be petrified. The protagonist immediately used his wall of light magic. The boy managed to repel the attack, after which he realized he was a mage. Manga said it seemed like a good time to have some fun. He'd let him die from the great power of the supreme demon of Zolamonia. And at that very moment, the boy used fire magic. Abel and his friends hid behind Gaston's figure. Mason asked if this was normal since the stone had originally been human. Abel responded that everything would be fine as long as he remained petrified. If he lost his form, he'd turn into something terrifying when he returned. Mason said he didn't want to imagine that. Abel asked how he was supposed to fight this guy when so many people had been petrified. The Magus asked him what had happened and asked him to come out and play with him. The protagonist mentioned that his staff could fire dangerous magic and mentioned something about demons. Judging by the magic circle he used to cast the petrification spell, it's not particularly complex. He thinks the petrification won't be broken unless they deal significant damage to the caster. Then everyone should return to normal. The protagonist said that if it were possible, he would like to get this role, since it does not look like an ordinary magic circle. Mason said he'd act as bait and distract him, and an Abel would win. Mesa said she'd at least run around and create confusion. He agreed with them. It was the safest way to deal with them. Magus asked if they were too frightened to move, and if so, he would go to them himself. At that moment, Abel's friends decided they had to go. They burst out from behind the statue and ran in different directions, screaming loudly. Magus immediately asked if they really thought they could outrun him. While the enemy was distracted by these two, the protagonist moved behind him and used wind magic. A voice began shouting at Magus that he was a fool and needed to watch his back. But he didn't have time to react, so a gust of wind lifted him into the air and then dropped him to the ground. The protagonist said that that was it. If he had relied entirely on his staff, there was nothing he could do now. The magus started to get angry. The protagonist said he didn't expect to survive such a fall. He thought to himself that his body was incredibly strong. The man asked that as a magus, he should understand what he was feeling. Magus said that the current era is completely rotten. Those people in the village who expelled him just because he continued to study. The only flaw here is their world, united by silence, looking down on magic. He then asked if he thought the same. Abel agreed, but silently thought that something had happened back home. Mega said he wanted the whole world to know about this, which is why he broke the seal that held Zolamonia. He asked him if he would join him in drowning the world in horror. Abel thought that both Adelaide and this man were confused because no one understood them. Even though he was a reincarnate in the world of magi, they are popular in this era. But he has a mentor, just like Yama-san. Misen immediately started yelling at him not to listen. The protagonist said he knew, but he thought he'd test the staff first before dispelling the petrification magic. At that moment, Zolamonia appeared before them. She asked Magus why he was taking so long to deal with these people. Abel thought that, judging by his magical power, it was this demon who was pulling the strings. The girl said that, however, it didn't matter. She had nothing else to do anyway, so she would play a little with the main character. Maya asked who he was talking to, and Maizen asked if there really was someone in the sky. Abel instructed them to keep an eye on the staff and not allow the mage to touch it. At that moment, Zolamonia began to attack. He responded with true light magic, silently wondering if this was magic without spells, as he thought. She must be a demon. While Abel was fighting, his friends took the staff, allowing them to see the girl. Zolamonia commented that it had been so long since she had last used magic, which was a good thing. The protagonist thought she was so fast. The demon laughed and asked how long she wondered if he could continue. Meanwhile, Magus laughed and told her to beat the hell out of them, calling her mistress. At that very moment, a blow struck the roof of the house behind him, causing the sign to fall directly on him. The protagonist continued his fight. Maizen approached him and suggested that he simply blow up the girl. The boy replied that he would have done so if he could. If he does this, he'll hurt other villagers too. The only option is targeted attacks. Maizen said he understood everything. The protagonist explained that if he could only seal her movement, he asked what he could do to counter her speed. Maya repeated the word speed after him, an idea popping into her head. The girl approached Abel and asked him about using it. He asked her again, then explained what he understood. At that moment, Zolamonia asked him what had happened, how long he intended to fend off her attacks, and suggested they have some fun. At that very moment, Abel summoned his totem. When the last one appeared, it suddenly began to attack the girl. The demon immediately jumped aside, surprised to see it as a totem, and she had a feeling it was the totem of the Marren clan. Zolamonia also said that it was made of pretty good wood, filled with magical power. If anything, it was made from the bark of the world tree. At that moment, an idea came to her mind. She carried out several clever manipulations, after which she said that she had caught him. However, just when she thought she had already won, a new totem made of demonic tree bark appeared behind her. She was surprised by what was happening. At that very moment, Zolamonia's body was attacked in several places at once. Abel immediately turned to Maya and asked her to raise her staff. Then he used his demon seal power. At that very moment, while the girl was in the air, magical power was directed from her staff directly toward her. She immediately began screaming for them to wait, to stop. She didn't want to go back. At that very moment, the staff absorbs the demon. The protagonist commented on how tiring it was. Zolamonia wondered why someone from the Marren clan was here, and what kind of attack that was. It suddenly dawned on her that this large totem carried the aura of her old friend. It had suddenly disappeared before they decided to come here, so she thought he decided to move somewhere else. The girl asked him not to tell her. She realized he was from the Marren clan, but he couldn't defeat her friend alone, then turn him into a totem, and then seal her. Abel asked what he should do with her. The protagonist mentioned the staff with the essence sealed within, and that he could think of many ways to use it. She immediately became frightened. At that very moment, the petrification spell began to wear off. Maya told the protagonist about it, to which the latter replied that it was bad. Mazen asked what exactly was bad. The guy said that the incident with Adalahite had happened just recently. He bets that now people don't see magicians in a very good light. If they now see him with the staff of Zolamonia in his hand, it will be even worse. The main character said that he really doesn't want to give it away, but he can't carry something so heavy around with him all the time. He doesn't need it. He suggested just burying it somewhere. At that moment, the spell lifted on Gaston. He immediately asked where the enemy was. At that very moment, a staff flew at him, and he asked what it was. The people, having recovered from the spell, began to rejoice at the return of their bodies to their former forms. Suddenly, they saw that Gaston was holding the staff the mage had used, meaning he had defeated him as one would expect from a hero. People started thanking him. They called him their savior. They said he was amazing. The man thought about what was happening here. He remembered nothing since he had arrived at the square. He wondered if a supernatural force had awakened within him. People started talking about rooting for their hero, the savior. They started chanting his name. Maya asked Abel if he was okay with that. He replied that they were already creating a cult. Mason asked how it was that Gaston was forever a Class D hero. He then asked the protagonist what he had done. The latter didn't answer and then began chanting Gaston's name as well. Thus, Gaston's fame spread throughout the kingdom of Dinrat, though he was unable to maintain it. Consequently, he would find himself embroiled in all sorts of troubles in the future. But that's another story entirely. Kingdom of Dinrad, awesome, Library of the Kudal Believers. Maya commented that to think he was trying to resurrect these evil monsters as she had thought, he must have been a bad man from the start. Abel asked her to be quiet and told her that the people here profess the Kudal faith, so she shouldn't say anything rude about their god. Amulets associated with mages are their religion, so their way of thinking is different. She apologized. This is the library of the Kudal faith in a sim. Kudal is one of the many religions in the kingdom of Dinrad, and unlike most other religions, it is quite tolerant. If you ask him why they are here, far from Lomar, there is a reason. The mage who resurrected the ancient demon turned many villagers to stone. Gaston, who saved the day, made his name not only in Lomar, but also elsewhere. Even the king eventually learned of his existence. The fourth ruler of the kingdom of Dinrad, Queen Charlotte, appointed him commander of a detachment of personal bodyguards. Of course, Gaston is a frontman with no skills, as he used it to hide his achievements, but now things have taken a serious turn, and he can no longer hide. Luckily, he's saved a lot of money, so he's decided to leave. Maya asked curiously about how the man was doing. Abel said he was sure people would quickly realize he had no military experience. But he simply hopes the queen's anger at being fooled wouldn't reach him. As for Gaston, he just hoped he stayed alive. He thought to himself that the man was quite resilient. In fact, Queen Charlotte coveted Gaston's glory so she could win the competition for the throne against her relatives. Therefore, even if he lacked the same power, she couldn't simply abandon him to maintain her position. Although Gaston knew nothing, having been petrified during the incident that led to his appointment as commander of the personal bodyguard squad, thanks to his luck and self-confidence, he began to act in accordance with his reputation as a hero. Maya asked what they were researching. Abel said he was looking for any magical device that could be used to spread magical signals to improve the megaphone's reach. The girl asked him what he meant. He explained that it was a mobile phone with long-range magical power. She clarified that it was the thing that would allow people to talk to anyone at any distance. While he was randomly searching for anything useful, she could spend her time productively and read a few books she liked. Maya agreed with him. 3 hours passed. Abel reflected on what he'd learned. The Dre alphabets have different symbols depending on the region and era, but the letters of great mages always have special ciphers that make them difficult to read. It would take a long time to make copies, especially for a book written by an alchemist named Maya, who died 80 years ago. Although its contents are quite interesting, he doesn't think he wrote it for ordinary people. It's as if he wrote it to mock readers. Still, this alchemist is interesting. If he had the chance, he'd talk about him with someone his age. However, only elves or dragons can feel good after 80. At that moment, Maya called out to him and asked him to look at something. It was Wigner's diary, The People of Yaruba. The protagonist immediately asked again. She asked if he remembered the guy from the research team when they went to explore the ruins of Zashum. To which he asked if she was talking about the bald old man. She explained that this guy fought the dragon for 3 days and 3 nights, eventually defeating it. It was incredible, wasn't it amazing? And Maya was looking down on him the whole time. Abel thought that was a 500% exaggeration. After some time, they left the library. The protagonist said how annoying it was that they weren't allowed to borrow books. He learned a lot today and thought he'd come back tomorrow too. Maya said that thanks to a high adventurer rank, one can get the right to use certain buildings as much as one wants. She thinks that he should stop hiding and put in some effort to raise his rank. The protagonist said that the more famous a person is, the more problems and less freedom they have. At that moment, a girl noticed him. She had already greeted them. It was Shaim, the F-rank adventurer who Mazin had introduced to them when they left Lomar. The girl mentioned that they'd been to the library, apparently, but she really loved studying. There were a lot of complex books there which she couldn't understand. Maya mentioned that there were a few adventure books for ordinary people. She also mentioned an interesting book called Wigner's Diary. The protagonist wondered if she was seriously recommending this book. Sheem said that there really are such people there. She heard that recently some strange organization appeared in Lomar, after which she asked if she knew anything about them. Sheem continued and said that she had heard that they had 2 horns and some kind of precious stone on their heads. Then she turned to Maya and said that she didn't have any precious stones on her head. The protagonist thought that the 2 horns and the gem on the head are a demonic race, which is why they are in Lomar. At that moment, Maya started shaking and started asking how they got here. It was obvious she was in a lot of trouble. A moment later, the girl fell to the ground unconscious. The protagonist immediately tried to call her name. He was genuinely scared. At this time, in the village of Marren, people were outraged that they would no longer be able to produce these leaves. They had said that mass production was possible. So how could they return to Carlco leaves after trying able leaves? At the meeting, people started discussing whether rumors were really spreading so quickly. It was obvious that Carlco wanted to regain his monopoly. This was very stupid. People who had tried Abel's leaves would not be able to switch to others. They approached the village headman and said that if they allowed this to continue, the unrest would never subside. The headman said they had no other choice now that it had come to this. At this time, Jiselle stood in the depths of the forest watching this and thinking that it was amazing. Everything was just as Shimsan said. The girl said that this way they would soon send people to search for her brother. At that moment, a boy stood next to her. He asked her about this Shim that she constantly talks about. It seems to him that there is something bad in this magic book. But the girl didn't listen to him. She was already imagining her little brother, the main character in front of her, asking him to just wait for her. The heroes gathered at Maya's bedside after she lost consciousness. Maya told them a story about demons. It turned out that Maya was the daughter of the chieftain of the Doom tribe. The tribe prided itself on its magical forehead crystals, and Maya's relatives, ashamed of her lack of one, kept her locked away for a long time. One day, Maya learned of a visit from the merchant James, who was passing through the village, and escaped from her room, hiding in his cart. She managed to persuade him to take her with him, and later, on her way, she met Abel. Maya told her friends that she was often alone in the village. Her family treated her like a lost object, and the local children called her crystalless and didn't want to be friends with her. She wasn't allowed to go outside freely. Maya had always dreamed of getting out into the big outside world and finding someone to be by her side. So she was glad to meet Mr. James and Abel, who treated her well. Maya smiles and says that since she met Abel, several unpleasant situations have happened to her, but it is still better than if she were at home, where it seemed to her that she was not living but simply existing. Abel looks at his friend thoughtfully. He always thought Maya was too afraid to be alone. Maya continues her sad story. She recalls that since childhood, she hadn't really spoken to her father and always felt anger from him. He probably considered her a disgrace to the family, which is why Maya couldn't believe her father was looking for her. Maya, agitated, deviates from the main narrative. She says she understands Abel stayed with her for the money, though it doesn't matter to her. She simply wants to continue traveling with him. Maya clutches the blanket tightly in her fists. Her hands are shaking. She says she doesn't want to go home. Abel is silent, tense. Abel thinks about his father, both in his past life and his present. The former was indifferent, the latter overly caring, but neither of them ever interfered with Abel's desires. Abel calls Maya by name. The girl looks up at him in surprise. Abel says that if her home village is so unpleasant to her, then Maya can forget about it. Abel enthusiastically says that if Maya's father pursues them, they'll simply continue to run away and travel together. Maya looks at Abel, moved, tears welling up in her eyes. Sheem wipes away tears of emotion and says she'll help the heroes too. She asks them about their plans. Abel replies that he and Maya stand out too much from the crowd and that the pursuers were able to get to them because there were so many witnesses. Abel suggests leaving as soon as possible and finding a secluded place, but he wants to browse the books at the city library a little longer. Maya desperately apologizes for causing him trouble. Sheem is also pondering. The heroine says that Maya and Abel need a place where they can hide while still continuing their research into magic. The action shifts to a forest on the edge of the Marren tribe settlement. A large crowd of people gathers in the forest. Everyone is chatting animatedly. The Marlene tribe has decided to send a party to search for Abel. The tribe leader stands in the middle of the clearing, looking at the people. Since only Abel knew how to grow tobacco for incense, the tribe broke the ancient ban that prevented anyone from leaving the village. Everyone discusses the fascinating world beyond the village and worries about whether they will be able to bring Abel back. Abel's father bids farewell to his wife, who will remain in the settlement. Gina asks her husband and daughter to be careful. Jiselle clutches the magical tome. She tells her mother not to worry, because they will definitely bring Abel back. A plump boy watches Abel's family. He turns to Philo. The boy asks Philo if Jiselle seems strange. The girl asks him what exactly he finds strange. The boy replies that Jiselle sometimes talks to her book and has generally changed recently. Philo explains that the book belonged to their grandfather and was kept in the library. After Abel disappeared, his sister began diligently studying magic to follow in his footsteps. Philo sees nothing surprising in the girl's despondency. The boy doubts this is true. Philo scolds Abel. She promises to tell him everything since he alarmed the entire village and left without a word. The woman turns to the elder and asks if he is sure the decision is correct. The elder frowns. The woman recalls that the villagers are breaking a centuries-old taboo to search for Abel. The elder believes this is the right decision. Demons are gathering at the western gate of the trading city of Romanu, part of the kingdom of Demraith. One of them runs up to the chieftain and reports information. The demon reports that Maya is heading towards Assam by cart. The chieftain adds that it takes 2 days to reach Assam on foot. The subordinate adds that Maya is traveling with a white-haired youth from the Marlen tribe. The demon chieftain looks away, puzzled. He asks why a tribe that had never left its territory would break an ancient covenant. He orders the squad to head to Assam. Demons are making their way through the forest. On the road, a man stops them and says they are not allowed to enter. It's a city guard. The demons see several guards. They inform them that to proceed further, they must take a detour. A monster rampaged through this area the day before, and now the cliff is in danger of collapsing. It will take about a week to repair the damage. The demon resolutely tries to pass. The guards warn them that if they don't stop, they will be arrested for rebellion. The demons reply that Demrath's laws don't apply to them. The guard is angry that the travelers refuse to understand him. He grabs his spear. The demon extends his hand and looks at the man from under his hood with an angry gaze. The guard is confused. The demon intercepts the shaft of the spear and pulls it hard towards himself. The guard falls to the ground with a crash and flies back. The rest of the people look at the demon in surprise. A sudden powerful roar in the gorge makes the guards turn around. A huge boulder rolls down a cliff. People stare at the stone in horror. The demons call out for their leader. When the stone approaches close enough for an attack, the demon leader leaps and flies upward. He clenches his fist. An explosion rings out. Rock fragments fly in all directions. The guards look up at the sky in shock. The demon leader falls to the ground, dust billowing around him. His hood falls off, revealing horns and a crystal on his forehead. The demon squeezes his hand and says he will definitely find Maya. It's a quiet day in the city. Within the city walls, people go about their business. Many visit the market. Abel and Maya are busy in the fields outside the city walls. Someone called out to Abel. The young man raised his head. A man in a tunic approaches them. It's the feudal lord. Abel wishes him good morning. The man says he heard from the butler that Abel and Maya went out to work in the fields. Abel explains that he's studying the properties of the soil. The feudal lord mentioned problems with magical plants on his land, so Abel decided to figure out how he could help. The feudal lord asks, surprised, if Abel understands botany beyond his knowledge of magical beast hunting. Abel awkwardly replies that he had the opportunity to study plants in his homeland, although hunting magical beasts is not his specialty. The feudal lord dubiously asks if Abel is certain, since the reward and promotion for a magical beast are commensurate. Abel quickly retorts that such things don't interest him, as he said earlier. He adds that it's enough for him that they were given a secluded place to spend the night. On Scheim's advice, Abel and Maya arrived in Feud-Farge. The city is located on the western outskirts. For the past month and a half, magical beasts have blocked the path to the city, and all communications with the outside world have been cut off. A giant three-headed serpent stands before Abel. This is a memory of the battle. The serpent was defeated. After Abel defeated the magical creatures, the feudal lord and the villagers greeted him and Maya with reverent gratitude. Abel gave the townspeople 3 of the serpent's heads and refused the reward. The heroes asked that the fact that they had performed the feat be concealed, and in return, they asked for refuge in a city. The fief of Farge is a distant land. Even after defeating the magical beasts, trade here is almost non-existent. Abel asks the feudal lord to provide him with research materials and premises. He promises that everything will be ready by evening, as the city will do anything for the savior of the lands. Abel nonchalantly throws his hands behind his head and says that life support is established, though he never thought they'd end up in such a remote place. Maya apologizes again for causing so much trouble. Abel turns around and asks Maya not to say that, as he himself is comfortable staying in such a place. Firstly, he was able to establish relations with the local feudal lord, and now he has a base and housing to continue his research in peace. Abel adds that the properties of the local soil have proven unexpectedly interesting. It differs from the soil in his homeland and is influenced by magic. If Abel can understand the causes of the crop failure, he will gain new knowledge. Maya, fascinated, says she didn't know Abel was interested in farming. Abel corrects her by saying that it was farming, and the magic he studied was based on the use of natural objects. Abel tries to explain medicinal herbs. Maya says she still won't understand anything, but in any case, she's glad Abel has found something he enjoys doing. Abel agrees. The heroes joyfully continue on their way. Abel enthusiastically declares that he will yet stir up a wave of new magic emanating from the rural wilderness. Men are also working in the field. One of them asks his comrade if he finds the wandering mage particularly creepy. The second man, confused, replies that the mage defeated a 3-headed dragon. Outside the wall of the trading city of Romanu in the kingdom of Daimart, members of the Marren tribe sit exhausted on the ground. One of them says the ban is still in effect. Anyone who leaves the village will surely regret it. These words are remembered by the tribesmen as they flee from magical beasts. They also recall encountering all sorts of monsters in the city. In fact, these were people too. They just look different. The warriors are exhausted. One of them says he wants to go home and misses his mother's soup, as lately they've been eating only the rotting leaves of the dwarf tobacco plant. Abel's father tries to encourage everyone. Philo notes with irritation that the adults are too pathetic. The girl recalls that Jiselle was the only one who dealt with the magical creatures on the road. She doesn't find this surprising, since Jiselle is Abel's sister. Philo is angry that the elders have left even the task of gathering information to the youngest members of the squad. There were reports of Abel being seen in the area, but the search has been fruitless. The squad is trying to find out from Jiselle whether Abel has left the city. Jiselle goes deeper into the forest. She stands alone at the edge of the forest. The girl opens a magic book and casts a spell. She's reflecting on how the squad's morale has plummeted significantly due to losing track of Abel. If this continues, they'll have to turn back. The girl is trying to figure out where to go next when a voice comes from the book. A voice announces that the squad is approaching Abel's location. The book asks Jiselle to wait a little longer and promises that a sign will soon appear that will provide a clue. Jiselle stutters and agrees to wait. The moon rises over the forest, field of the territory of the feud Farge. It's pouring rain. Abel shields his eyes with his hand and shouts that he needs to hurry. The rain threatens to wash away the pumpkin cuttings he laboriously nurtured. Maya shouts at Abel to come back or he'll get sick. The men in the field also don't understand what the magician is doing. Abel summons a magical totem. Maya asks where he's going. Abel climbs inside the totem and tells Maya he wants to disperse the rain clouds. Abel soars into the sky, he casts a spell and commands the wind to disperse the clouds with the power of magic. The clouds dispersed instantly. The peasants look joyfully at the clear sky. Someone among them says the magician is dangerous. Abel laughs, lowers himself to the ground, and says that nothing is impossible for him. Maya looks at him in shock. The next day, Abel is overcome by a cold. He lies in bed, unable to move. His entire body is drenched in sweat. Abel asks Maya for forgiveness and says he's dying. Maya is horrified. The visiting doctor irritably says Abel has a cold. Abel doesn't believe it because he's feeling so bad. The doctor replies that if he doesn't get better tomorrow, he'll give him more medication. He also recommends rest and not going out into the fields. Maya cries with joy that Abel will recover. Abel lies in bed, upset, thinking about his pumpkins. Maya consoles him and tells him everything will be fine. She learned from the locals that a totem from the world tree watches over the field. Abel sleeps peacefully in bed. Maya has fallen asleep with her head on the edge, sitting on a chair nearby. In her sleep, she mumbles that everything will be okay. Suddenly, a shimmering dot appears on the girl's forehead. Streams of magic fly around the room. In his sleep, Abel doesn't understand what's happening, but his thoughts become clearer. A magical stream passes right over his bed and escapes through the window. Magic, like a thread, stretches beyond the house and then beyond the city and reaches some endpoint, forming a bright magical target in the sky. Both the demons and Jiselle see this symbol in the night sky. Both look at it in amazement. Morning comes. Abel groans discontentedly in bed. The magician wakes up and tries to understand what happened. He gets up, but his mind is empty. Suddenly, an idea occurs to him. Abel jumps out of bed and screams that he can't lie around doing nothing. Maya wakes up. He runs out of the room, getting dressed, and tells Maya he wants to try the magic seal he saw in his dream. Maya, confused, asks after him if he's recovered. The mountains beyond the feudal Lord Farge's estate. Maya stands, buffeted by powerful currents of wind caused by magic. The girl stares at what is happening with wide eyes and cannot utter a word. Abel clasps his hands in delight as he has succeeded in making the seal. He explains to Maya that the idea came to him in a dream and that perhaps he comes up with brilliant ideas in his sleep. Maya trembles and replies that the feudal lord might be angry. Abel continues to rattle off that they'll have to come up with a good justification and name for the technology. The demons also see a pillar of magic in the distance. The leader stands on a rocky slope with his squad and says that he has finally found Maya. The demon looks tensely at the sky. Beyond the city walls, the men are back working in the fields. One of them sees smoke and asks the other what it might be. The second man replies that the smoke seems to be coming from the mountains. Suddenly, several strangers approach them. These are demons. Maya shouts at Abel that the feudal lord will definitely be angry when he sees all the consequences of the seal. Abel promises to restore everything a little later with the help of a construction totem. He smiles nonchalantly and suggests Maya have breakfast first, adding that he hadn't eaten anything while he was sick. Maya agrees, but suddenly notices something in her peripheral vision. The heroes look out over the city from a cliff. Maya says that, despite it being early in the morning, it's quite noisy there today. The heroes are called. A peasant approaches Maya and Abel and announces that they have guests. He asks his companion if he was asking about Maya. The demons are rapidly approaching the heroes. Maya freezes in horror. The demon leader looks at the girl, frowning sternly and pursing his lips. Maya stutters. The girl hides behind Abel and calls the demon father. Abel turns around in shock. The demon pronounces the daughter's name. He stands in front of Maya and calls her home. Maya doesn't respond. Suddenly, Abel blocks the demon's path with his hand. He asks the demon what he is trying to achieve and why he decided to play the chase after abandoning his daughter to her fate. Abel adds that Maya doesn't want to return home and demands the demon leave her alone. Maya looks at her father with fear. The demon asks if Abel belongs to Marlene's clan. The demon says Maya's power is beginning to awaken. Abel doesn't understand what he's talking about. The demon demands he get out of the way. Maya's father slowly approaches the heroes. Abel creates a magical seal and a teleportation spell. A huge totem lands in front of the heroes. The demons look at him in surprise. Abel grabs Maya's hand and asks her to climb inside the totem. Together, they climb inside. The totem soars above the forest. It flies a long distance across the sky. The totem lands among the trees. Abel climbs out, as does Maya. The magician says it looks like they won't be able to negotiate with the demons. Suddenly, they all freeze in shock. Maya's father quickly catches up with the heroes, clearing his way with magic. Abel can't believe what he sees. The demon catches up with them. Abel thinks tensely about the fact that they will have to fight. The magician asks Maya if he can beat her father or if she still wants to go home. The girl is close to tears. Maya screams that she doesn't want to go home. Abel casts a spell and commands the earth to tremble. A powerful explosion occurs. Clumps of earth fly at the demons. Many are unable to stay on their feet. Maya's father shields himself with his hand. Abel sends the totem Asher into battle. The totem attacks the demon leader, who barely manages to dodge. Abel is amazed that Maya's father can track the movements of Ashura's totem. The demon continues to fight the totem. He punches the ground so hard that deep cracks form in the topsoil, sending clods of earth and rocks flying upward. Ashura rises into the air. Abel conjures the earth to become his wall. A huge earthen barrier rises in front of the totem. Maya's father pierces him through in a few blows. The totem attacks the demon from behind. Maya's father turns and deflects Ashura's swift blows. 5 giant magical spheres hung in the sky above Abel. He casts the spell Hidem Magimatol. The spear falls on Maya's father. Bolt. The smoke clears. Abel looks at the spot where the demon once stood and wonders if he overdid it. Maya's father appears from under a cloud of dust and small stones. Abel and the demon once again stand face to face. Maya's father believes that the mage from the Marlene clan, despite being a member of a family that never left their village, is versed in the magical arts. A bell summons the totem again. Ashura tries to grab the demon from behind. The demon turns around furiously. He strikes the totem with a loud cry. Upon contact with his hand, the totem breaks in half and falls apart. Abel looks at his opponent with fear. Maya looks at her father. Abel calls out the totem's name. The demon stands over the fallen Ashura. Abel conjures the wind. A giant tornado appears in front of Maya's father. After a while, the tornado dissipates, and the demon looks at the empty space before him. Maya and Abel have escaped. The heroes run through the forest. Abel laments Maya's father's immense strength. Maya apologizes to her friend for breaking his totem. Abel asks if Maya's father enhanced his attacks with magic, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to destroy the magical tree so easily. Maya suggests that the totem was crafted using an ancient technique passed down from generation to generation. Abel replies that his mentor mastered this technique. The wooden doll technique is a combat technique that temporarily enhances one's strength by channeling magical power through a totem. Few members of the Marlene clan have mastered it, as it is a highly advanced technique. Abel adds that the technique requires fine control over magical power using an amulet. Due to its complexity, the technique was passed down only to a select few. Abel admits that he, too, tried to master it but failed. Maya is surprised by this. Abel thought this was an easy way to gain strength, but after futile attempts, he had to lie in bed for a week with muscle pain. The mage adds that body enhancement works differently than conventional magic. Abel is interested in how the Doom clan copes with its power-ups, as knowing this might reveal their weakness. He asks Maya if their clan has any special magical tools. Maya can't remember. Maya says there's a belief that the crystals in the clan's foreheads allow them to sense spirits in the air. She asks if this type of magical power can be controlled through meditation. Maya apologizes for not possessing such a crystal and for not being able to give Abel a clearer answer. Abel speculates that Maya may have been forbidden from using magic in the past. He's curious to know the reason. Abel suggests it could be due to contempt or the lack of a crystal. Maya looks sadly at her feet. Abel says that if crystals can sense energy in the air so easily, then it explains why Maya's father found them so quickly. The aura of magical instruments, like their totems, is special. Abel apologizes to Maya for the fact that it was his magic that revealed their location. Maya says it's not his fault. Maya adds that she didn't expect to be followed so persistently. She doesn't understand why the Doom clan would need this. Abel thinks that if they just sit tight, they'll be found very soon. Abel is pondering their next move. Ashura has been destroyed, so the heroes are losing to the demons in terms of speed. But if Abel uses any magic, it will reveal their location. Suddenly, the heroes freeze in the middle of the road. Maya, her face darkened, looks ahead. Her father comes out to meet them again. Abel looks at the demon with determination and declares that he gives up, since in his current state he will not be able to defeat him. The demon is silent. Abel adds that he respects Maya's choice. The demon begins to get angry but remains silent. Maya takes out a small blade and squeezes it in her hands. She screams at her father that she doesn't want to go back. Never. And that she'd rather die here than go back. The demon mutters that Maya couldn't do that and just decided to play out a drama. Abel shouts at him that he is the worst father in the world since he brought his daughter to this. Abel continues arguing with Maya's father. The mage says that no one in the Duma clan cared about the girl's opinion when she was locked away. She was very lonely, so she always longed to reach the outside world. The demon frowns angrily. The hero explains that, by coincidence, he had two fathers. One didn't dictate his life, while the other constantly nagged Abel about staying home and training his body. But Abel was free to do whatever he wanted, so he endured. Abel continues his argument with Maya's father. He says that because the demon kept his daughter locked away, returning to such a house would be like death for her, so the only way she can resist is to end her life. Maya brings her blade to her neck. Abel grabs the magic wand and promises that if Maya doesn't have the courage herself, he will help her. Because the speed of his spell is higher than the speed of the demon's movement, Father May angrily curses Abel and rushes forward. Some time ago, the heroes hatched a plan. Abel suggested Maya stage a little performance and take advantage of her father's weakness, as he needed her safe and sound. Abel gave Maya that very blade and added that if they managed to irritate her father, he would lose concentration, and then the heroes would use his temper against him. Abel again conjures the earth to become his wall. A magical seal appears before him. An earthen wall rises between Abel and the demon. Maya's father crashes into the wall and destroys it immediately. Abel conjures the earth to tremble. The ground beneath the demon's feet cracks. A whirlwind of dust swirls around him, and suddenly the demon senses something and turns around. Another totem appears in the vortex. This is a totem from the World Tree, into which Abel invested his magical power and which he summoned using teleportation. According to Abel's plan, the demon, having lost concentration, will mistake the totem's energy for Abel's own aura. Abel begins to cast another spell. He calls upon the spirits that make up the earth right here and now. The magician commands the spirits to seize Maya's father. The spirits emerge from the ground and surround the demon. Maya's father is enveloped in fixed strands of energy. He can't seem to break free. Abel transformed his Adim Mandrametal technique and turned it into a magical whip. He decides to call the new technique Abel's Whip. Using his wand, he controls the whip that holds Maya's father. A gigantic swing of the whip sends the demon flying through the forest. Abel approaches the defeated demon, the leader of the Doom clan, Murzef, and asks him a question. Abel asks why he was pursuing Maya. The demon is silent. Maya looks at her father with fear and anticipation. Abel mentions that they exchanged the jewels Maya took with her when she escaped for a magical tree in the trading city of Romana. The totem hovers in the air over the major's shoulder. The demon frowns. Abel suggests that the demons were following the magical trail of Ashura, the wooden doll Maya's father smashed. The demon replies that he and the magician have nothing to discuss. Suddenly his face contorts. The demon screams. A magical field begins to form around him. Abel is amazed that he still has the strength to resist. Mirza breaks free from his bonds and rushes toward Abel. Abel conjures the whip to capture the demon. Mirza is again entangled in the whip and falls to his knees in front of Abel with a crash. Abel, too, is unsteady. Having caught his breath, he asks where Mercy gets his strength from when he has several broken bones. The demon croaks and asks if Abel gained his power to control metal through Maya. Abel's whip is metal. It instantly changes shape. Such a spell requires incredible control of magical power. Abel doesn't understand what he's talking about. The demon explains that he saw a sign in the sky the previous night. It was the power of Maya, spoken of in the prophecy. Mirdzef adds that Abel probably noticed that he could use Maya's magical power, but the demon doesn't know what the magician is pursuing. Abel asks again, confused. Maya turns to her father. The three look at each other in stunned silence. Maya's father asks if they really know nothing. The demon begins his story. 4,000 years ago, the guardian god of these lands, Kudor, battled Silpheim, the evil sky god, defeated him, and sealed him on the moon. Exhausted, Kudor fell into a slumber to recuperate. Abel asks why Mirzva is telling them the legend. The demon replies that currently only the elves of the heavenly kingdom know the secret of their clan. He explains that the Doom clan are the descendants of a race created by the heavenly god himself. Maya and Abel listen to him in amazement. The Doom clan was created by Silpheim to oppose the god Kudur. But according to legend, the celestial god was sealed on the moon. Mertzveh says that right before Sylphane was sealed, he sent the clan's ancestors to this land and placed their bodies in a living grimoire. Abel asks what a living grimoire is. Mertzveh replies that the living grimoire is Maya. The god Kudor allowed the people of Doom, created by Sylphane, to live on the land of Dimrath, so the clan swore eternal allegiance to Kudor. But even the elves don't know this. Mertzveh reveals that the sky god is gathering strength for a rebirth on the moon. Only a few of the Doom clan know of this prophecy. It states that in 2,000 years, a descendant of the Doom tribe will become a powerful weapon of the sky god. Abel interrupts him. He asks Mertzveh how he learned of the evil god's revival and the god Kudor's whereabouts. The demon recalls a lunar festival that even the Marlene clan, cut off from the outside world, should know about. The Moon Festival is the day when once every 500 years, the moon makes its closest approach to Earth. On this day, the magical power of all living things in the world is enhanced, and many countries celebrate this holiday, regardless of religion. Abel recalls that the festival was celebrated 6 months ago. Maya confirms that she heard about the town preparing for the holiday as trade resumed. The demon asks the heroes what they can say about the increasing number of magical creatures running amok across the country. Abel and Maya look at him in confusion. Abel recalls the invasion of magical creatures in Romana, where he first met Maya. Ivalbon and the demon Zolamonia also appeared there. The mage agrees that such a number of creature-related disasters hasn't been seen in 100 years. Maya remembers Nalgarn, who blocked trade routes to the Farjfif. Mertzveh explains that the Doom clan has no reason to remain loyal to the creator god, as his return would bring chaos to the lands. That's why they had to isolate Maya. Mertzveh adds that the Doom didn't know how effective the barrier their shamans created would be, but they felt it was necessary to hide Maya at least until the year of the lunar festival. Maya asks why her father didn't tell her about this. Maya is angry and shouts that if only she had known about this, she wouldn't have hated her family and never would have run away. Mertzveh remains silent. Mertzveh remembers holding little Maya in his arms and says that 15 years ago, when he learned that his child was dangerous, as a leader he had to eliminate the potential threat to the world. But he simply couldn't do it. He says with bitterness that he showed weakness by leaving his daughter alive. Maya realizes with horror that she must become a weapon for the revival of the evil god. A day ago. A night forest. A pass 2 mountains from the Farge domain. A voice from the grimoire tells Jiselle, Abel's sister, that the shining sign in the sky is a good one. Jiselle realizes her brother is on the fief's land. She tells the book that she senses her brother's magical power there. Grimoire laughs and says he doesn't know why everything is working out so smoothly in his favor. Sim, the spirit inside the book, is going to possess not only Abel, but also the girl. Jiselle happily thinks that Abel still wants to return home. She approaches the edge of the cliff and, looking at the sky, says that she is already on her way to Abel. Maya realizes that her destiny is to become a weapon for the revival of the evil god. The girl wonders if her father's words are true, then she is the being who will bring disaster to the entire country. Maya wonders if the power of the heavenly god influenced Abel's magic, which had been nearby all this time. Maya looks at Abel with fear. She wants to know what he's thinking. Is he shocked that he cast a spell under the influence of an evil deity? Will he want to stay close to Maya any longer? The girl timidly, stuttering slightly, addresses the magician. With a grim expression, he calls her by name. A second later, his eyes light up with delight. Abel tells Maya that she's simply incredible. Maya didn't expect such a reaction, so she remains silent, confused. Her father also doesn't understand why Abel is acting this way. Abel addresses the demon. If Mertzveh's words are true, then Maya's existence is necessary for the heavenly god to use magic through his followers once he breaks the seal. Abel adds that as a mage, he didn't sit idle and was able to devise powerful spells when Maya was around. Abel continues enthusiastically, saying he used to think good ideas came during illness, even the idea for Abel's ball. Abel happily concludes that thanks to Maya, he was able to use his power unknowingly. In his clouded state, Abel was more easily influenced by the god's power. The magician thanks Maya. She remains surprised by his reaction. Maya asks Abel if he's afraid that if the prophecy comes true, she'll bring disaster to this country. Abel says it's incredibly exciting, and he can't let something like this pass him by. Abel grabs Maya by the shoulders and insistently asks her to stay with him. Tears well up in Maya's eyes and her father's face darkens. Abel frees Murdzivif, saying that since everyone now knows about the situation, there is no longer any need for enmity. The magician adds that he will also protect Maya and calls Murza father. Murdzif angrily forbids him from addressing him that way. Maya blushes. Murdzif asks if Abel has any plan yet. 20 minutes later, the heroes find themselves at the Farge estate. They are greeted by a worried feudal lord. Panicked, he asks Abel what's going on. The feudal lord asks what happened to the mountain nearby. Abel is at a loss for an answer. One of the peasants points to the demons behind the mage. The man from the estate calls the demons suspicious guests. Abel good-naturedly replies that he invited them. The feudal lord and all the inhabitants of the estate look at the magician in surprised silence. Abel introduces Murdzef as an agricultural specialist whom he's invited to help investigate the cause of the crop failure. The feudal lord, confused, asks why there were explosions in the field then. Abel laughs and apologizes for not warning the feudal lord about the carving work. The magician adds that he didn't know exactly when the guest would arrive, as he's always very busy. One of the peasants continues to suspect something is wrong and says that the meeting between Murdzef and Abel looked as if he suddenly attacked them. Abel frantically corrects his answer and says he wanted to take a deep cut of the soil to analyze its composition. Since his arrival, he hasn't been able to sit still. He addresses Murdzef as his teacher. The demon remains silent. Abel apologizes to everyone for the inconvenience caused and promises to restore everything destroyed with the help of magic. The feudal lord says such liberties are unacceptable, even if Abel is the benefactor of these lands. Abel promises to begin work immediately. The magician decides to start by creating a magical tool for restoration. Abel approaches the trunk of a tree uprooted from the ground and feels the bark. The tree is likely lacking energy. Abel notes that it's in situations like these that it becomes clear how favorable the environment in Marlene's village is. Murdzef turns to Abel. He asks if it's possible to delay so much when a solution needs to be found as quickly as possible, despite Abel's stated intention of remaining in the feudal lord's lands for some time. The demon adds that while Abel is stalling for time, the day when the heavenly god will awaken is getting closer. If the land isn't protected by a barrier, like the sea otter Dum's home village, sooner or later a trace of magical power seal will appear in the sky. Then the sky god's subordinates will notice it. Abel says it's best for them not to linger here. Abel pounces on Murdzef with questions. He asks what the clan barrier is and who can explain how it works. Murdzef tries to push the boy away. The demon takes out a hexagonal artifact and hands it to Abel. This is an ancient relic he brought back from the village. Once it returns to the clan's territory, its power will increase. Abel examines the magical object carefully. Abel concludes that the relic's power won't be enough to create a barrier. He adds that such a weak barrier can easily be destroyed by a mage of his level. Murdzef asks what they should do then. Abel replies that he doesn't understand much about barrier magic. He clutches the relic and says he needs more information. Abel suggests returning to the clan's village to gather research materials. He asks the Dune clan members to help clear the area. Maya also rushes to Abel's aid. He asks her to help him create the World Tree Totem. Abel casts a teleportation spell. A magical seal and a small totem appear before him. Murdzef twitches toward Abel. The demon stops the magician. Maya and Abel look at him in surprise. Murdzef says he sensed energy similar to that of the wood golem somewhere before. She asks Abel if the barrier artifact and the totem are made of the same material. Abel is surprised to note that the artifact's core is indeed the World Tree. He didn't immediately realize this because the relic was so battered. The mage asks if the seal in the sky was the reason Murdzef found them. He adds that if the seal's appearance was caused by Abel's reaction to Maya's power, they should have been found 2 months ago. The heroes recall that when Abel was in the hotel with the fever, he accidentally drew a huge magic circle and then unconsciously probably fell under the influence of Maya, who was nearby. Murdzef replies that 2 months ago, Maya's pursuers did not notice any signs. Abel concludes that the World Tree has a barrier effect. Maya recalls that there was no effect last night. Abel replies that perhaps it's due to physical distance. Last night, the wooden totem was watching over the fields and was distant from the heroes. Abel says that the totem originally had the ability to hide from evil creatures, which is exactly like a barrier. Therefore, if the world tree has a barrier-boosting effect, the totem's barrier power should also increase. The mage pensively pronounces that this aspect is worth exploring. Maya gazes at the totem, fascinated. The girl, her eyes shining, says that meeting Abel was predetermined as they found the world tree together in Romanu, after which Maya bought it and Abel made a totem. Abel recalls that he never gave Maya the money. Mertzb insists on immediately beginning research into the world tree. Abel says he still needs to sort out some business. Suddenly, Mertzb senses something. He loudly commands the demons to gather. Mertzb says that something evil is approaching them. Finally, Maya's father explains that the sign that appeared last night has brought not only demons, but also servants of God. Maya and Abel look at him in fear. Mertzb reports that the creatures are approaching. They call Abel loudly, calling him brother. Jiselle emerges from the forest toward the heroes. Abel turns at the sound of her voice, sees his sister, and freezes in shock. An unknown hero tells the story of his life. When he was born, the first thing he saw was a bright light. At that moment, the hero realized that this was his creator. The hero's creator was Silphame, a god who was like a father to him. Suddenly, thoughts rush into the hero's mind. Silphame was sealed, lost to another god, and awaits the opportunity to be reborn. The hero was surrounded by a multitude of shadows, many more than he was. They became like older brothers to him. Father ordered them to descend to Earth and cause chaos in preparation for the lunar festival. They were also to seize the grimoire. The creatures descended to ensure the invasion proceeded smoothly on Father's birthday. However, the hero didn't possess the same power as his brothers. One after another, they caused chaos and unleashed magical beasts. But the hero lacked the strength. The only thing he could do was influence weakened minds. He attempted to master a powerful magical beast, but the beast nearly devoured him. Having mastered a weak mage, the hero was nearly killed when he was spotted. The entity wanted to prove it could be useful to its father. This desire drove it. It wanted to show its brothers that it was no worse than them. In its wanderings, the entity encountered Abel. He watched the mage from afar, thinking he desperately needed someone strong. Abel seemed like a difficult magician to him. The hero began to think about how to win him over to his side. However, the entity had no chance to take over Abel's mind. It flew away to give itself time to find the mage's weakness. The entity arrived at the Marlen clan's village. Jiselle was left alone in the room, holding a book in her hands. The hero saw the gap he needed, which would allow him to take possession of the man. The spirit's memories from the grimoire end. Jiselle emerges from the forest to her brother. Abel, surprised, asks what she's doing here. Abel's companions ask if they know each other. The magician replies that she is his younger sister. Maya is surprised. Mertzb says the book in Giselle's hands emanates a strange aura, suggesting she might be under the influence of a demon. Abel anxiously asks if Jiselle might be possessed. Jiselle approaches the heroes. She apologizes to Abel for driving him into the wilderness. Jiselle puts her hand to her chest and says she regrets what she constantly put Abel through. She adds that things are different in the settlement now. Jiselle joyfully tells Abel that her father will forgive him. She extends her hand to him and invites him to return home together. Abel starts screaming. He asks Jiselle to be a good girl and drop the book she's holding, as it's dangerous. Jiselle replies that Sim brought her here with his magic. It was the spirit in the book who said it was wrong to separate two people destined to be married. Maya hears Giselle's words about marriage and looks at Abel with a shocked expression on her face. Jiselle introduces herself as her brother Abel's fiancée. Maya asks Abel what all this means. Mertzb angrily asks what the magician plans to do with his daughter. Jiselle watches her brother and Maya interact with a grim expression. She asks sharply who Maya is. Maya turns to Jiselle. The girl asks what kind of relationship Maya has with her brother. Maya finds it difficult to answer. Sim thinks he's lucky because the girl who followed Abel turns out to be the grimoire left behind by Silphame. The spirit rejoices at the prospect of earning the respect of the evil god. He turns to Jiselle. Influencing the girl's mind, he offers her to return Abel together and tells her to act as he orders, without touching the girl next to him. Jiselle asks her brother again who the girl is with him. Abel is at a loss and can't answer. Sim asks Jiselle to ignore Maya. but she still asks the heroes if they're too close. Jiselle loses her composure and asks the same question again. Sim tries to stop her and subdue her again. Maya sees Jiselle talking to someone. She asks Abel about it. The magician replies that his sister is probably talking to the spirit possessing the book. Murdzif adds that he senses the power of Sylphame's minion. Abel says that this spirit apparently only has the power to influence the mind, meaning it is most likely a lesser demon. Sim angrily thinks that both his brother and sister are mocking him. He breaks away from the book. The book falls from Giselle's hands, and she loses her balance. The heroes look at her in surprise. The book falls to the ground. Jiselle rises to her full height in silence. Everyone looks at her tensely. Giselle's eyes change. She starts laughing. Abel is stunned. Murdzif explains that a spirit has taken over her body. The Sim in Giselle's body says that the body is under his control. He demands Abel to submit. The spirit threatens the mage because his sister's life is now in Sim's hands. Abel is angry but doesn't move. Murdzif says that Sim might tell the sky god Maya's location, so they need to think of something quickly, even if it means Jiselle getting hurt. Abel tries to stop Murdzif. Jiselle summons a doll. A wooden totem appears above her head. The spirit in Giselle's body conjures the power of life. An incredible force surges through the girl's body. She pushes off the ground so hard that it cracks open and launches an attack. Jiselle rushes straight towards the heroes. Murdzif and Abel freeze in shock. The spirit instantly approaches Maya. She does not have time to react in any way, just like the other heroes. The spirit in Giselle's body takes over Maya and bewitches her to sleep. Maya falls asleep in Giselle's arms. Abel sees the spirit using body-enhancing magic and a wooden doll. The evil spirit laughs and says that Jiselle worked so hard to find Abel, so she studied all the magic books in the village and even mastered the secret techniques of the Marren clan. Sim orders Abel to surrender because he now has 2 hostages. He demands that Abel's body and soul be given to him if the magician wants to save the girls. The Doom clan members call Maya. Murdzif tells Abel that if Maya is taken, everything will go according to the sky god's plan. In that case, unfortunately, he'll have to deal with Jiselle and the evil spirit within her. Abel tries to stop him. Abel says that Giselle's a very important person to him and asks how someone who hid his daughter for so many years to protect her cannot understand this. The mage adds that a thoughtless frontal attack could also harm Maya. Sim then casts a spell, creating a closed prison-like barrier around Maya. The spirit continues to hold Maya. Abel realizes that to save both girls, he must extract Sim from Giselle's body. Using the world tree, dispelling the nightmarish curse isn't all that difficult. But the spirit, with its enhanced body, will stop him before he can cast the spell. Abel notices the Jiselle doll and decides that the surest way now is to neutralize it. The Sim within Jiselle wants to deal with everyone who stands in his way. He conjures the wind to cut through all his enemies. Sharp gusts of wind fly at the demons. Maya's father builds a wall in front of his people and protects them. Abel explains to him that the totem strengthens Giselle's body. The magician adds that if they destroy it, they will be able to pull the spirit out of his sister's body. The leader of the Doom clan calls upon all his subordinates to attack. The demons rush forward. Sim casts a spell on the ground. The spell destroys the earth. Dust and clods of earth swirl around the heroes. But Murdzif breaks forward like a lightning shadow. He appears behind the totem and wants to attack it. Sim grins. Maya's father falls into a trap. He finds himself on the ground, bound hand and foot with magic rings. The spirit conjures the earth to rage. The spell falls on all other demons. Sim continues to laugh. He tells Abel that, of course, he noticed all the heroes' maneuvers and knew in advance that Abel would want to remove the totem to save the girls. The magic rings begin to strangle Maya's father. The evil spirit asks Abel if he is ready to become his servant. Abel is angry. The members of the Marren clan are still on the march in the mountains. Philo tells Shivi he's too slow. There's no way the boy can keep up with everyone. Abel's father adds that since the tribe never left the confines of their settlement, such speed is not surprising. The man sighs and adds that unfamiliar terrain can quickly tire you out. Philo shouts irritably that they can't leave Jiselle alone. The rest of the search parties return to the settlement out of homesickness, leaving only them. Abel's father laments that something must be wrong with his son and daughter for them to have ventured so far. Suddenly, the trio hears a loud noise. Abel's father doesn't understand what's happening. Philo assumes it was an explosion. Shivi screams that the world outside the settlement is very scary. Philo pushes the bushes aside because she thought the sound was coming from that direction. The heroes see a cliff, and below them lies a battlefield. Murtzpfeff is almost suffocated by the magical rings that are squeezing his body. Sim asks Abel what he intends to do. The spirit adds that the man from the Dumb clan will soon die. Abel asks Sim to stop. At this time, Jiselle's soul is watching the fight. Jiselle's soul does not understand why Abel does not want to praise her. She learned all the magical techniques, even a special technique that Abel could not master. But he still did not praise her. Jiselle starts to get angry. She angrily thinks about why Abel doesn't even look at her. Suddenly, Maya starts screaming. All the heroes' eyes turn to her. Sim is surprised that Maya is capable of acting on her own free will. He asks Jiselle not to harm her as he needs Maya. Abel also repeats this request, but Sim replies that hurting Maya is Giselle's sincere desire. The spell of the magic rings holding Mirza suddenly dissipates. The demon attacks swiftly. Sim is distracted. Abel realizes their chance has arrived. He casts a spell and directs it at the totem. He forms a seal and conjures the evil spirit to leave Giselle's body. Jiselle falls to the ground. The barrier around Maya dissipates and the unconscious girl falls into her father's arms. Abel approaches Sim as a disembodied entity and warns him that he will not allow him to rest in peace, as Sim has not yet answered his questions. He re-encloses Sim in the book, using sealing magic. Immediately after this, Abel runs to Jiselle. He approaches the girl and asks if she's okay. Jiselle regains consciousness. She sees her brother and asks what happened. The girl says that she was sure that Abel would return soon, but over time she realized that everything was not so. When Sim offered to help her search, she agreed to accept because she thought something had happened to Abel. Abel apologizes to his sister. Abel explains to her that the demon took advantage of the weakness of her heart and that the girl is not guilty of anything. Jiselle says she won't insist on marriage any longer if only Abel will agree to live with her in the settlement as before. Abel frowns. He asks his sister for forgiveness and says that even without the wedding, he still can't go back. Giselle's eyes widen. Abel explains that he's gotten himself involved in a case that's both dangerous and all too exciting, but that he plans to return when it's all over, though when exactly that moment will come is unknown. Jiselle looks at him, astonished. She can hardly hear her brother's words. She bites her lips. Inside the girl, a rage close to madness blazes. Jiselle believes her brother is being deceived and led by the nose because he is too kind and naive. Jiselle decides she must save her brother and abruptly rises from the ground. She rushes toward the cursed book and grabs it. The girl begins to cast a spell and appeals to the spirit imprisoned within the book. She sees Sin's dark form again. The darkness around her deepens. Jiselle asks him to lend her his power. She convinces Sim that she can wield it better than him. An inhuman scream erupts from Jiselle. Abel rushes towards her. Giselle's body is enveloped in darkness. A tornado of dark magic begins to swirl around her. Abel runs toward her. He doesn't understand how the spirit managed to remove the seal, or how powerful it truly is. Giselle's body transforms. She repeats that her brother is being deceived, and that those around him are taking advantage of his kindness. Jiselle makes a dark seal. She attacks Maya and her father. Murtzpfeff grabs Maya. The spell hits the spot where they were standing, causing a terrible roar. Abel turns around. He realizes Jiselle is casting spells without a spell. She's likely completely consumed by the evil spirit. The Doom clan members struggle to get up from the ground. One of them asks what kind of monster it is. Jiselle turns at the sound. Murtzpfeff is shouting at his men to run. Abel casts a wall of light. It protects everyone from Giselle's dark spell. Abel remembers his battle with Ebelheid and thinks that the shape and features of Giselle's magic circle are similar. Murtzpfeff says that her magic comes from the heavenly land and that Jiselle has completely absorbed the power of the heavenly god. Abel is angry that the demon waited for the right moment to act. Murtzpfeff counters that Jiselle broke the seal herself. Abel exclaims that his sister couldn't have done such a thing and simply succumbed to the demon's influence because she was so worried about him. Maya supports Abel. Maya's father remains silent. Jiselle is overcome by dark thoughts that it would be better if she were left alone with her brother. Abel decides to try again to exorcise the evil spirit from Giselle's body. He asks the Dune clan for help. The demons scatter in all directions, distracting Jiselle. She begins casting spells at any moving targets. Abel waits for the right moment to move the totem behind her. He uses a movement spell. The totem appears behind Jiselle. She instantly turns around and launches a spell at the wooden doll. Giselle's spell incinerated the World Tree totem. Maya screams. Jiselle grins and prepares for another attack. She directs the spell straight at Maya and Abel. Father May grabs both of them and dodges the spell. Abel creates a magical shield and surrounds the three of them. Jiselle continues to cast spells at him. Merziv says that Giselle's soul has already been completely consumed by the evil spirit, and his own strength is insufficient to defeat it. The demon suggests that Abel killed Jiselle, as there is no other option and no time for doubt. Abel categorically refuses. Merziv reproaches Abel for not fighting seriously, otherwise they would have won by now. Maya anxiously listens to the conversation between her father and friend. Abel thinks that without the totem, he won't be able to separate the demon from Giselle's body. In that case, he'll need to use Abel's sphere or an equivalent attack. However, such an attack could kill Jiselle. Maya asks if having another totem would improve their situation. The girl recalls that when the heroes were being pursued by magical beasts, Abel created a totem out of earth. Abel counters that this isn't a magical totem, but simple earth magic. The totem must be made from a tree containing magic to manifest its power. Using a totem to banish a demon is like using a calculator to decipher a complex code. Abel realizes that Jiselle has become even more powerful, making it more difficult to lift the curse. Abel worriedly thinks that even if he wanted to make a new totem now, he doesn't have good quality wood on hand, and he doesn't have time either. Members of the Marren clan watch the battle from afar. Philo, horrified, asks what kind of monster is floating in the air. Shivi sees Jiselle and Abel. Abel has come up with a way to defeat Jiselle. He asks Merziv to distract her while he casts a spell. Jiselle continues to fire magic at everyone. Merziv dodges. He uses his body enhancement and launches himself into the air with a powerful leap. Abel begins to read the spell. He hopes that Jiselle will hear him. A powerful stream of light magic bursts out from Abel's two magical seals. The whirlwind of darkness dissipates. Abel looks tensely at where his sister used to be. The spell failed. From beneath the clouds of smoke, the demonic face of the possessed Jiselle reappears. Jiselle attacks again. Abel continues to hold the shield. Maya's father screams at him that they will all die this way. Maya calls out to Abel. The mage strains with all his strength to hold the barrier against his sister's attacks. He turns to certain forces and calls upon them for help. Suddenly, a swarm of small wooden totems appears behind Jiselle. Abel understands that the quality of the totems is worse, but there are so many of them that this should be enough to defeat the evil spirit. Abel conjures the spirit to leave Giselle's body. A magical current, channeled through all the small totems, envelops Giselle's body. Moments later, the girl, having returned to her human form, begins to fall unconscious from the sky. Abel uses wind magic and catches his sister. He runs up to Jiselle and asks if she recognizes him. Jiselle regains consciousness with difficulty. She sees her brother. Abel says how happy he is. Abel admits he underestimated the demon, thinking it was low level. But the demon proved too dangerous. Abel didn't know the evil spirit would be able to take complete control of his sister's body. Sim, once again in the form of a disembodied dark entity, tries to object and explain that Jiselle herself extracted his power and used it for her own purposes. Sim admits that the brother and sister are too dangerous, and even a god would have a hard time with them. Merziv sees a bunch of small totems and asks where they came from. Abel replies that they are wooden dolls from his home. Abel happily says that, as expected, his mentor heard the call of the totems. Summoning the totems left at home by teleportation would have been impossible as the totems lacked magical power. Therefore, Abel used sonic animal repellents to create vibrations in the air and call them. The villagers and the headman heard a strange sound. Abel's mentor realized that this was a signal from him and came to the magician's house. Abel's mother showed him the totems that were kept in the house. The mentor told her that Abel had given him a message asking him to teleport all the totems to the edge of the country. The head of the settlement decided that this matter was urgent and created a huge seal for teleporting the totems. Moving matter in one direction requires magical power proportional to the distance. However, with a magic circle for two-way movement, this becomes possible even if the matter lacks magical power. The leader set up a magic circle from the village, and Abel waited to receive the totems. Abel remembered the first time he made the sound devices. The boss had doubted their usefulness. Abel explained that they could be used to transmit a code using Morse code. Abel considered that in the village, it would only be useful as an alarm system. The magician dreamed of creating a mobile phone. The mentor didn't understand half the words Abel spoke. The old magician thought that perhaps Abel was not destined to remain in the clan's village forever. The feudal lord and his soldiers run screaming onto the battlefield. Abel greets them in confusion. Someone calls Abel by name. The magician feels as if he's hallucinating from exhaustion and hearing his father's voice. But Abel's father, along with Philo and Shivi, run toward him. Abel, shocked, asks what they're doing there. The feudal lord asks what happened. Abel apologizes and promises to make things right. Merdzvef says there's no time for chatter. Since they've defeated the Dark God's minion and lost the totems, the threat has become more serious. The heroes need to head to the World Tree as quickly as possible. Abel agrees. Abel apologizes to the feudal lord once again and says that he will fix everything when he returns, because now he needs to go on an urgent mission to save the entire country. Abel tells his family that he must stop the god's revival. He apologizes that he won't return home until he does this. Abel's father remains silent, confused. Philo adds that in a conversation about gods, there is nothing left to do but believe. Jiselle purses her lips. Suddenly, the girl bursts into loud cries. Abel and his father look at her in shock, as do Philo and Shivi. Philo thinks about how hard Jiselle studied to meet Abel and how she finally found him. Philo invites Abel to take Jiselle with him. Jiselle falls silent, but tears continue to stream down her face. Philo explains that Jiselle is almost as skilled in magic as Abel himself, meaning she will be of great use on the journey. The girl says she's ready to go with Abel. She enthusiastically agrees to the journey, but Abel isn't happy. He's shocked. He turns to his father. He is thinking hard. The father allows his children to do whatever they want because they won't listen to him anyway, and asks them to come back when they are done with their business. Jiselle rushes to Abel and promises him that she will definitely be useful in the fight against the gods. Abel says that the first thing they need to do is stop the evil god. The magician and his friends set off on a new journey. Abel joyfully says that he still has much to do in this world.